Give it a little life there. Okay, good morning. Yeah.
Good morning.
Last class.
Is it? I thought you
It
guys
is.
were halfway through.
Last graduation is next Saturday.
Oh, sorry.
I was at a graduation. I was telling Ed, at a graduation yesterday at Richland High School, 936 kids. And they got them across the stage in just a little over an hour.
Wow.
I mean, three seconds per child.
That's amazing.
We'll give you more time next Saturday.
I can't move that fast.
Yeah. So, welcome class, just a few messages, and then we'll let JoJo get started. Here, graduation notes, you haven't responded to the email from Virginia saying, yes, I'll be there, yes, I'm bringing 22 people, yes, I need a table, I need whatever you need. If you're bringing a project, please send that to her, so we are sure we have a big enough occasion. At least it's here. Starts at 2:00. Just general itinerary. We're gonna have 2:00 is when we'll kind of officially open. We want all the projects around. We're about 45 minutes away. Yes, we'll be here. I assume either this room or the one across the way, but you'll figure there's one in that other building where we picked up books last year, one of those. But I think yeah, over there, yeah.
Somebody, I did
I
say.
think it's this one.
Somebody,
That will be, like tables around.
I did admit.
Good.
I hope that was the right one.
If you do need to get any more hours in, to make sure you have 40, to make sure you have these 40 hours. Or you're trying to also certify as well as graduate. Please do it by Thursday. So, because Friday, Melissa's gonna do the final full. And look at that. So I know there are some of you that are close to or past not only your 40 hours, but your 40 hours in class, but your 40 hours of volunteer work. So they will hand you all kinds of things at the graduation. I'm going to make a plea, if any of you are interested, give me your name again if you'd like to be part of the training community. I will tell you, it is a great way to pick up a lot of hours. I'm right at, with this and the other things I'm doing, I'm close, like 95 volunteer hours for this year already. And the nice part is, you're getting company training again for free, which I found really helpful. That's there. Stephanie, Stephanie wanted just a minute.
I just wanted to say, like, after I was an intern last year, I thought about joining some committees, and I was like, committees, they're probably experienced, and they know what they're doing, and they don't want any newbie and all that kind of stuff, but it's one of the best things I've done. I've been able to get a lot of hours, like Michael has, and any committee you can join and they'll meet you wherever you are. You can participate however you want to, whether it's a little bit or a lot. So don't be afraid to join, like the training committee. We have committees that are working with the annual meeting that we have. There's all kind of opportunities, so don't be afraid to ask somebody, or don't think that just because you're a newbie that you don't have anything to offer, because there's a spot for you. And committees are always happy to have leadership. And you can participate however it lets you want.
There's a training as a communications team. Lisa's still looking for people to help with the end of year celebration. We have a 20th anniversary celebration for the chapter. And then immediately after, we have our end of year banquet. So we have, the meeting for November is a volunteer appreciation banquet, where everybody just comes and it's a really nice meal and lots of awards given out. Meeting some of a lot of the members who don't come to anything else because they're past members from 20 years ago will show up for that. We encourage them. So I think those are all the messages. Nobody else? No? All right. Well, now, and today is the day of birdies. It's here. We're gonna start with JoJo Bradbury. She's got all her statistics up there, so I don't have to quote those. So, and then we're going to have Linda Cron's gonna talk about bluebirds. So, it's all yours.
All right.
We're just having a little technical issue with projecting y'all
Oh,
on the Zoom. All they're seeing is the dragonfly right now, so we're trying to fix
Okay.
that. So,
so as you can see, it doesn't require much expertise at all.
But if you can run a Zoom meeting.
yeah, you'll be, we'll need you. Yeah.
Well, let's start by saying that I have a lot to cover. We will take a couple of breaks. Now our breaks will be shorter. No, I'm just kidding. But because of it, we're getting a late start, but that's okay. So,
Share button.
okay. I thought you were halfway through, but you guys are actually almost done, so that's cool. So one of the things I was wondering was, at the end, you can do a little presentation. Did you know that? Yeah. Who's doing a presentation? Presentation, or is that it?
Yes.
At the end of this, at the end of this, you get to do a
Right.
little project and you get to present it, right? Only two?
Project, we have,
This is a.
Meredith is doing one,
Yeah.
Marissa and Hayes. are you
Good.
doing this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Think about it, because, you could cover any kind of subject that we do in Texas Master Naturalists, and it's a great opportunity to get out there. Because if you go out there and like you man a booth or person a booth or whatever, and, you can like share your passion with everybody, so it's a really good thing to do. Matter of fact, I did it, on birds when I was doing my thing, and the people that in the training program said, how would you like to come back and teach the ornithology class? And I was like, yes, I'd love to do that. So, it gives you different opportunities, opens up doors and things, and it's a lot of fun. It really is. So,
So,
anyway.
all right, we'll get out of your way. The people remote won't be able to see you until.
Yeah, well, they're not missing that. No.
Oh, no, they are.
So, let's see, I just want to make sure, okay, right. So you think like, well, why is ornithology important as part of this Texas Master Naturalist course? Well, birds are important because they maintain a natural balance in nature. They're everywhere. They're connected to a lot of different ecosystems. Their existence is fragile, so they're dependent on the maintenance of the habitat. And they migrate extensive distances, so Texas is important because birds they migrate through the flyways and it goes through Texas. So as a master naturalist, once you become one, we need to be aware of these vital the role that our state plays, and we need to be aware and be able to spread that word. So I'll just go over a couple of things, just a little bit about me. Because you're like, well, why is she here? Okay, so I'm originally from New Jersey. I worked at ExxonMobil for a long time, and I was in the corporate world. And then I left there and I started my own desktop publishing business, and I did that. And I was in New Jersey and New York City, New York, and then in Dallas for a while. And I did that for a while. It was very stressful, but oh, let's see. I'm getting a Zoom thing, so hopefully that worked over there. Since I was 19 years old, I've been a certified fitness professional and teaching, Zumba. I don't know if you guys are familiar, like Zumba. I did like Pilates, yoga, spinning, the whole shebang. I'm still certified by American Council of Exercise and the Aerobics Fitness Association of America. And I've been doing that for a long time, and I just will always keep doing it. You got to keep doing. Anyway, so then I lived in England for 5 years, and when I was there, I went back to college as a mature student, and that was interesting. And I studied biology and psychology. Got an associate's degree, similar to an associate's degree. They call it advanced technology. Anyway, and then I traveled and I lived in different places, and I traveled extensively. I'm up to 32 countries now that I've visited, some of them several times. Just got back from Italy, and England. I just had a 7-week trip over there. Anyway, then while I was living in England, I started mountain bike racing and I did the nationals and, I know I shouldn't toot my own horn here, but I'm going to because you know what? I'm gonna toot. I came in 3rd place in the nationals in my category. And, thank you. And I qualified for the worlds. I didn't get to go to the worlds, but that's okay. It was still good.
Can we look at something while you?
Yeah, and then I lived in Northern Virginia for 14 years and I did, corrective exercise. I was a corrective exercise specialist, kind of like physical therapy and things like that. In the off season when I wasn't racing, I used to go out and do hikes because, I wanted to be out in nature. And that got me kind of started because I got a little pair of binoculars, kind of cheap things, and I started looking at birds and looking at everything around me and stuff. And that's kind of what got me started into birding. So tell you a little more about that in a minute, but so then I started doing that. And then when I came to Texas, we how you buy a house, the day of the closing, you have a walkthrough so that the realtor goes through the house and you make sure everything okay, right? So we get to the house, the realtor doesn't show up and we're waiting for him. It's in the morning. We're supposed to have the closing in like, a couple hours later. He's partying in Austin. Right. So he's partying, so we're waiting for him. So my husband says, well, all right, you know what, I'll go around the front. I'll check at the house. We'll look at the exterior. I'll go around the back. So I go around the back and I see these 2 ducks and I'm like, we have ducks. So of course, when I yelled that out, they went up on the roof and I scared them. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what are these ducks? Like I've never seen ducks go on the roof like that because we don't have those kind of ducks. So anyway, so turns out they're black-bellied whistling ducks, right?
Okay,
So I wanted to just, here, board my
All right.
slide.
okay, we'll forget about
Yeah, so,
the people remote cannot see your slides. That's what we're trying to
Yeah.
fix. Is seeing if we
but,
could
you
share.
know.
Okay,
I'm sorry, what birds are they again, if you don't mind, I can hear.
They're called black-bellied whistling ducks, and actually on my next slide, I was gonna just show you about them, but they're cool.
Let me get-
And I don't know if you've ever seen.
there,
The king's black-bellied whistling ducks.
we gotta go to full screen again. There we go.
Start slide.
There you
Okay.
go. All right,
All
we
right.
didn't fix it, but oh well.
I mean, basically, they're very cool ducks because, well, they have no fear. You see them like sitting next to an alligator. I mean, I can't believe that, right? But obviously the alligator was full, so it's okay. They must know that. There must be something. And they're so cute. I mean, look at these little babies. Like they're adorable. I mean, how could you not love them, And they're very social. They're social with each other. They chatter amongst themselves. They get along with other birds. These are roseate windows. And they whistle. I mean, how cool is that? What other bird or duck whistles? No other duck that I know whistles. Anyway, so I guess one more thing that really got me into this, because people go like, what really got you into it? I worked on, as a volunteer, there was a atlas we put together, and in the days of pen and paper, before we had apps and things like that, we had to go out and basically look at the birds and then see like, what are they doing? And the atlas was put together to see like, are they breeding in that county? This was in Virginia. And that project was for 4 years. So for 4 years, I got to like really get to know the birds by really watching them, because we had to write down like, what are they doing? Are they building a nest? Are they, feeding their young? And so, looking at them that intently kind of got me to really understand, more about the birds and kind of brought my birding level up higher, so, but the goals of this class, basically, we want to understand, again, like causes for bird diversity, habits of bird migration, the characteristics in relation to the environment. We want to also identify the primary flyways of North America and Texas, because that's really important. We'll cover those after. How the birds function within the ecosystems. And then we want to become aware of conservation concerns for birds, how the bird populations are monitored and managed, and, just other good stuff like that I like to throw in just for fun. So what is a bird? So just quickly, we'll just go over the characteristics of birds. They're the only living creature that have feathers. And because nobody else does, they have bills or beaks. They hatch from hard-shelled eggs. Other insects that do, other things that do lay eggs are like fish and reptiles, but they're warm-blooded. They have a four-chambered heart like we do. We have like right and left ventricle and atrium. Oh, you knit too. How about that? So does the other woman over here. They're both knitting. Okay. As long as, anyway, they have hollow bones, and most of the bones are very lightweight, but they're very dense and stiff and strong. And so, and most of them fly. The only, maybe about 60 species don't fly, they're flightless. They're the ones that are like in the oceanic islands that don't have mammalian predators. So the anatomy, just want to go over this real quick. The thing that makes birds so special is they have a wishbone, or like a furcula, it's called. And that enables them to fly, because basically the muscles are attached to that sternum. And so it allows them to fly. And then you think, well, those bones are so light and hollow, how could they be strong? But they have kind of internal trusses that make them really strong. And so that's why. And then on this next slide, we have the parts of the bird, and we'll be like testing you later to see if you want. But no, if you want to kind of sound intelligent when you're sort of describing a bird to other birders. Oh, I meant to ask, how many people consider themselves birders here? Yay.
Amateur.
Oh, yay, okay. And how many wannabe birders or better birders? Oh, you, Diana, put your hand down. She's a good birder. She-
Blind.
So, and who doesn't like birds at all? They're like, you know what, they wake me up early, they mess up my car, I don't like them. Nobody, everybody likes birds, right? How can you not like a bird? Anyway, okay, so, but basically, if you want to sound intelligent amongst these other birders, this is like the terminology or the bird speak. So, you know, you'd say like the crown of the head, if you're describing it. So those are some things. I was never a big history buff, but I like to just go over quickly about the history of birds, because people think, well, what's going on here? So basically, just gonna come back here, because Archaeopteryx, I can never say that word, it's a tough one to pronounce, but it was the first fossil that was ever found in Germany. And it had features that were like a bird, the feathers and the wishbone, and then it had reptilian features too, like teeth and bony tail. So it suggested a link between birds and reptiles. Then in the late 1800s to the early 1900s, Darwin's theory kind of inspired the scientists to believe that they evolved from dinosaurs. And especially theropods. Theropods are like the 2-foot walking dinosaurs. And that idea was debated and dismissed by a lot of the 20th century paleontologists. So in the early 20th century, these reptiles, they discovered that there were clavicles in these ancient reptiles. And so that kind of, they originally thought that they were absent, but then it kind of challenged that bird dinosaur connection. So then in 1960s to 1980s, renewed fossil discoveries, they found new fossils and they analyzed them. And it showed that these theropod dinosaurs actually did possess furcula or wishbones and clavicles, which are the key traits that are shared with birds. So the paleontologists kind of reinvigorated the theory that birds are modern descendants of the theropod dinosaurs. And then in the 1990s, some fossils were found in China, and it revealed that there were feathers in some of these, and these supposedly dated back like 130 million years. So the fossils showed that feathers were attached to the forelimbs. And so that confirmed that there was a strong link between the birds and the theropods. And 66 million years ago, there was an extinction event, probably an asteroid, and it basically wiped out all the non-avian dinosaurs. And pretty much, it was probably like a cataclysmic type of thing, maybe tsunamis and temperature change, acid rain, earthquakes, things happened, and then that was the end of that. But a lot of them survived. They were survivors, and they still amazing that they survive this long. So that's just a little brief history. And now there is a lot of diversity in birds. So basically, I don't know if anybody ever took biology, there's like this, scientifically, there's a hierarchy of the living things in descending order of complexity. And basically, that's how, they're listed. So you have like the, domain, and the kingdom, the phylum, the class, the order, the family, the genus, and the species. Well, birds make up the class Aves. So there's 41 orders, there's 249 families, 2,057 genus. You'll be tested on this. No, 10,000 species of birds in the world. There used to be billions, not anymore. They're found on 7 continents, the open ocean, and Antarctica. And the largest diversity are found in the tropical areas like the Amazon basin, North and South America, East Africa, Southeast Asia. And then there's endemic species that are on isolated islands, sort of like New Zealand, like there's Galapagos Island, for instance, like the blue-footed green. So, and then in North America, we have about 960 different species, about 630 in Texas, and in Southeast Texas, where we are, about 350 different species. 200 breed here. So, and half the species in the world are in the order Passiforms, which are also called passerines or the songbirds. So this to me is very confusing, and don't I expect you to, but I'm putting it in there because of the fact that this is like, there's always new scientific data coming out, and basically the scientists have reconstructed the bird family tree, and now they're using genomes to study them. So it's part of a project. It's 10,000. It's called the 10,000 Genomes Project, B10K, and they're aiming to sequence all the existing bird species in the world. It's been taking 10 years so far, and so far they've done 360 species and 200 fossils. And they're finding out that among these 10,000 species, there's 3 major clades. And basically the clades are consist of, well, a group of birds that are like a group, like ancestors and descendants. And they're finding that they're trying to get just a better reorganization, because they're always kind of finding things with DNA and things like that. And so it's changing. So I don't expect anybody to understand this. I don't understand it. It's not, a lot of people don't understand it, but I'm putting it up there just because it's happening, like they are changing it. It doesn't really affect us in any way, because for our intents and purposes, we just know that there's a lot of bird diversity. There's so many different categories of birds, and basically they're based on lifestyle and habitat. So we've got land birds like hawks, woodpeckers, and songbirds, freshwater birds, some ducks, rails, and herons, seabirds, like the pelicans, boobies, and frigate birds, flightless land birds, ostrich, emu, and kiwi, and underwater flyers like penguins, cormorants, and anhingas. And penguins definitely don't fly, but they fly underwater, so to say. So I guess I'm kind of going through this fast, especially because I kind of want to catch up with our time. I kind of had a lot to put in, and I'm sort of just going over, we'll go over some other things a little bit slower, but basically bird diversity. So this is all the types of, based on body shape and lifestyle. We've got waders, the herons, the eves, the storks, the spoonbills, the lichens, the ibises, all the duck-like type birds, all the perching birds, sparrows, crows, flycatchers, those type. Then the fowl-like birds, the owls, which now they have changed to a different group. They're not putting them in with this upland group anymore, the scientists. Anyway, the hawks and falcons and things like that, the hummingbirds, the tree climbing, woodpeckers, nuthatches, tree creepers, the gull-like birds, and the pigeons and doves and things. By the way, I took all the pictures in this video, in the slideshow, every picture I've taken. So I'm an amateur photographer, but I have taken all the bird pictures. That's why I stuck them in there, because I really like the birds. And so we're going to play a little game. I put some paper in front of you because I wanted to play this game with you. Let's see if I could Okay, so these are the common birds in our area. Now, if everybody has a paper and pen, you guys will have, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to point to the birds with the. Just gonna start out with, I'm gonna point to these birds, call out, don't be shy, just call out what you think it is. And then give yourself a check mark if you knew what it was. Now, if the person says it and you didn't really know it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, but you didn't really know that that was the bird, you know, it's an honor system, so just be honest. If you didn't know it, you didn't know it, and it's okay, there's no shame in that, there's no shame at all in not knowing a bird, it's all right. Because this is why we're here and we're gonna learn more about them. Okay, so I'm gonna point to them, and if you did, just give yourself a check mark, okay? Or, you know, you could do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if that's the way you want to do it, maybe that's better. I would do it that way, because we're gonna count it later. Okay, so I'm gonna start and just yell out if you think I'll start with an easy one. Let's see, yell out if you know it. Yes.
Carolina.
Yep. You guys are good. It's a little bit tougher. It is a warbler. Did you say?
Oh, a fine warbler.
Yes, that's right, fine warbler, yeah. Okay, right, what's the difference between these?
Female
two?
warbler.
Yes,
Woodpecker.
yeah.
Red-bellied woodpecker.
Yes, yeah. Make sure you're giving yourself
Red
shoulder to
shoulder.
shoulder, yeah, chickadee, oh, sorry. Make sure you're giving yourself the point. Yeah, you sure? It's a little smaller.
Oh.
I know, it's looking right at us, so it's kind of tricky, isn't it? Oh, they sing a lot of different songs.
Not a monkey.
Mockingbird, yeah. Okay, 1 point, yeah. Nobody else gets that point, yeah. All right,
Eastern blue.
yes.
Crow.
With a peanut in his mouth.
Blue jay.
Taking a bath, yeah.
Robin. American fin or house finch, yeah.
House.
House
finch, yeah.
Oh, a male house finch.
So is there a mockingbird? Yep, yeah, mockingbird. No, this one's tricky.
Finch?
No, it's a tricky one, and you know what?
Is that one of those?
If you get this, you get an extra point. You'll get a bonus. You'll get a bonus. Okay, remember this guy? Oh, wait, that's not him. No, it's something else. Oh, okay, I don't have, all right, I'll tell you what it is. It's a yellow rumped warbler. It is breeding plumage. Right, it's amazing, the breeding. And then last but not least, this one, here's a little, there's a little,
Oh, that could say.
is it a what? Who said it? Yep. Ding, ding, point. All right, very good. It's a white-eyed vireo. White, I should say white-eyed, because when I say that to my husband, he's English, and I say wide-eyed vireo, and he pictures this vireo with like really wide eye. So, okay, so the next one, bird of prey, okay. And I'm gonna go through this one quick too, just give you some points for these. Everybody knows this one. Yeah, and same thing, okay, how about this one?
Red shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah, how about that one?
Red tail.
Yeah,
Red tail.
yeah, red-tailed hawk, okay, how about this one?
Swanson's. Rose Swanson's.
Somebody said it.
Peregrine. Falcon. Swanson's. The Coopers.
Coopers, yep, that's it, Coopers, ding, ding, ding. How about this one?
Red tail.
No, that's a tough one, and there's bonus points for that one. I'll tell you, that one's a juvenile Cooper's hawk. Yeah, so you get points bonus extra if you got that one. How about that one? Yeah, this one.
Black vulture.
Right, now, the reason everybody said black was because you looked at the black head, didn't you?
Yeah.
But see these wings? These are actually a turkey vulture. This is an immature. They don't get their red head right. So it's actually immature. The black vulture has just the fingertip of an end. Anyway, we'll move on. So this one flying,
Osprey.
yes. How about the one sitting?
Also Osprey.
Yep. How about this guy?
Juvenile baldy.
Very good. Yay. That's a tough one. Not everybody knows that. How about this one? Yes. Did we do this one? That's pretty easy. You knew this one, right?
Yeah.
Flying. What is it?
Just red shoulder.
Yeah, red shoulder. And, how about this one? Say it.
Eagle.
Bald eagle, yep. Yes, the juveniles don't get their, head or tails, the white, until they're adults. It takes 5 years. 5 years for them to get that. And that's how they look. These are seen along the Spring Creek Nature Trail. Have you guys been? Now, I know, now Diana over here. We know each other because we have worked on the trail maintenance crew for the Spring Creek Nature Trail. Diana does a lot of work with cleaning invasive and all kinds of stuff. She's amazing, her and her husband. And but other people who are in the Woodlands probably know about the Spring Creek Nature Trail. Anybody not been there? You really need to go if you haven't, because it's beautiful. It's amazing. But anyway, so these are some of the waterfowl that come through. So I'm gonna, again, just quickly go through and see if you know any of these. So this one's kind of easy. Look at the bill. Oh, that one's called a northern shoveler. Yeah, northern shoveler. Make sure you guys are giving yourselves the points for the ones you get. Wood duck. They used to be my favorite until those black-bellied whistling ducks welcomed me to Texas. All right, this one, he's sleeping. It's a little hard. This green wing teal. Yep. How about this one? I know that's a tough one. Blue wing teal. These guys. Yeah, everybody gets that point, right? You guys giving yourself points. This one, killdeer, yeah. White egret, great egret. This one's a heron.
Black heather. Oh.
Yes, yes, yellow crown night heron. These guys,
White pelicans.
yeah. How about that one?
Is it a mark answer?
No, actually, it's similar to this one, isn't it? Similar.
Is it a coot of some sort?
Well, if it's hanging out with these guys.
Is it a
The,
juvenile female?
it's a female wood duck. Yes, and then this one,
That's a female male.
and that's a tricky one too. So if you get this right, it's actually called a mottled duck, mottled. They're like mallards, but little different. You get a point if you knew that one. And last but not least.
Did you say mottled?
Mottled,
Okay.
yeah, mottled, and then this guy.
Cormorant.
Yeah, okay,
Good.
all right. You guys tallying up your points, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So woodpeckers, they're not in order at all or anything like that, but I'm gonna give you bonus points for different ones. So real quick, we're gonna go through this one.
Pilly.
Yeah, this one,
That's a flicker.
yeah,
Red cockaded.
close. That's a downy, this one. We saw him before.
Red.
Yeah, this one,
Redheaded.
yeah. How about that one? It's a tough one.
juvenile?
Yeah, this is a tough one. This was a yellow bellied sapsucker.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and then this one.
A pigeon?
Now, that's a tough one too, but that's actually a juvenile redheaded. And again, they don't get the redheaded until they're older. I know. So now bonus points, who knows which two are here in the winter? Only in the winter.
Only.
Yeah,
Downy.
they come in the winter. No, the downy breeds here.
I'm gonna guess the red. Flicker?
The flicker, yep, flicker's one of them. Bonus point.
And the sap.
And a sapsucker, yeah, bonus point. Very good. Excellent. Okay. All right, moving on. The red cockaded woodpecker, it's endangered, as you know. So I put this up here because this is a downy and it looks very similar to the red cockaded, but you can see that white cheek patch. So that is real, like the real defining ID more. And these are banded females. You can see they have the bands on the legs. I took these over in WG Jones. And basically, they've been on the endangered list since 1970, and they still are. But they nest in the pine forests like the WG Jones, and then also Louisiana and Florida. And of course, their range is declining due to the habitat destruction. They like longleaf pine. That's their preference, but they'll also build nests in cavities in like loblolly, shortleaf, and slash pines. So at WG Jones, right down the street, I don't know if anybody's been there. Yeah, so that is
We had, Donna present on that and took the class out. to
nice.
Someone.
Yes, and isn't that great? I mean, they're doing that where they build the, the boxes for them so that they can nest. I mean, it's awesome. She goes up that big ladder and it's unbelievable. Anyway, so, yeah, so that's one thing that people come from all over. Like I've seen people when I'm there, like they're from California. I mean, they come from, all over Canada. They're like, I gotta see the red-headed red-cockaded woodpecker, because this is only one of the few places that still have them. So let's fight for keeping that place undeveloped, because people were trying to develop it at one point. I don't know if you guys remember that. Do you remember they were trying to,
Yeah,
trying
they
to,
tried several times.
didn't they?
And recently they were trying again, and I think the state legislature provided some more protection.
Good, yeah. Because we just did not need another development, really. So how do we ID birds? Well, first you have to think, okay, size and shape, like, is it smaller than because people say like, how do you ID birds? A lot of people are interested in that, especially if you're birders, you're kind of like wondering. I know we have a lot of apps nowadays that help us, that's for sure. But in the old days, where I'm from, we started with books and things like that. I mean, basically I have like all kinds of, let's see, my first book, and these are still really good, Birds of North America. I mean, if you see it, it's like colored and written in and all kinds of things, where you saw it and when and all that stuff. But now we have, apps, and we'll kind of go over that after. But basically, if you're gonna like look at a bird, you think, is it bigger than a house sparrow? Is it smaller than a goose? And that kind of narrows it down. Then you go, well, how about the colors and the markings? Does it have, so not just like a bluebird or a cardinal or that's a summer tanager up there, but does it have like wing bars? Does it have a bib? Does it have a necklace? Does it have a crown? Are there spots? Are there streaks? Are there patches? So there's a lot of different things. And people think, how do you know? Do they have a spectacle? Do they have? And so that's the other way of looking at it. And then of course the bill, the type of bill, you have to think, well, okay, I'm gonna just move this slide forward for a second. The right tool for the job. So like, if you look at these birds, you gotta think, well, all right, well, there's different reasons why they have all these bills. I love this slide. It's so colorful and pretty because it's got all these different bills, and you don't realize how many bills there are out there, And so, like, for instance, the shoveler, right? You know how that spoonbill does like some shoveling in the water. This guy, now you can see this, and it's got the answer, but you can kind of see how each of the bill does a certain job, like the grosbeak and the cardinals, they're cracking seeds, so they kind of need, like this guy, granite borer, they need to have that bill that's gonna crack those seeds. It's pretty amazing when you think about how a little bill like that could put so much pressure and crack a seed, because I can't crack a seed like that. Can you do it? I mean, it's hard. The sunflower seed is really hard. Not that I've tried, but, and then you've got, the hummers, which need to be able to probe into the flowers, deeply into the flowers. So anyway, you've got a big mixture of bill shapes, and you need to have that tool. So the location, you have to ask yourself, well, where in the world am I seeing this? Am I seeing it in Texas? Am I in Florida? Am I up in Canada? Because the birds are going to be in a different place at a different time. So like habitat and range, where is it? Is it in the grass? Is it up in the trees? Is it on the beach? Because all that's gonna make a difference. Like if you see this bird, you're not gonna say, oh, that's a cardinal, no, a duck, or, well, it could be a duck, but typically, you're gonna have a shorebird, this is gull of some sort. So, cause it's not the beach, and the same thing with these guys. If you notice, there's a little red-bellied woodpecker here, and then there's a red-headed up there. And so in the nest cavity, so you're thinking, well, nest cavity must be some kind of woodpecker or something. So you're kind of always looking at different ways to narrow it down. And then we've got the, so we have habitat behavior, like what are they doing? What are they doing? Are they foraging? Are they singing? Because the polls are gonna tell you what they are. And then also what time of year is it? Like, is it fall or is it spring? Because if it's spring, maybe it's a bird that's migrating through and we don't see them every month, you know? So, let's see. We got the tools, right, the foraging. So it's funny, this thing's a little bit sensitive. So what kind of, okay, so this guy, you know, everybody knows this one, right? Great blue heron, you've probably seen one, they kind of lurk and then they spear their fish. So this guy here, I'll give you a bonus point if you know what it is. It's okay, you know, no problem. Hello, welcome. It is a snot, so who said that? You said it. I know. So, right, it's called a Wilson snipe, but see his bill. What kind of, what do you think he does with that bill? What kind of? Yeah, how do you think he does it? Right, so this one stabs, yeah, this one, what do you think with that long bill?
I think he goes real mud.
Yes, probing into the mud, yeah, he probes really deep into the mud. And so that's his way of doing it, and then these guys, how about these? Look, his head is way down there, so he's probing the mud too, isn't he? And these are yellow legs, they're called greater yellow legs. So the spoonbills, I don't know if you've ever seen them. What they do is they kind of swish and then they kind of catch the little invertebrates and things as they come up. These are, you know, who these are?
Those are ibises.
Well, these two, this one and this one are ibises, yep, and they probe, they kind of do like a sewing machine action, and then these are egrets. Egrets, yeah. What kind of egrets? Snowy, that's right, snowy. Can't see their feet, but they have yellow feet. Right, so they are going to basically, they tap the water, they do this, and then they tap, and then the invertebrates come up, and then they catch them that way, and sometimes this great egret will stand there, and you think, oh, he's kind of shepherding them, how cute. But he's not, he's actually letting them do the work, and then he could, as they do the work, then he goes after them, yeah. So, and then we've got this guy who's really interesting. Anybody know who that is?
Tricolor.
Yeah, ding, ding, another point. And it's freaky because what do you think he's doing? Like, and why is he doing this?
Making it easier for him to see.
Yes, that's exactly right. So, yep, that makes it easier because now he doesn't have to, he can like look down. And they're funny.
What was he? Yeah, I couldn't hear.
Oh, a tricolored heron, tricolored. And they run around like, they're kind of like, oh my God, like this. They run around like all crazy, like, oh, there's a fish here, there's a fish there. They run. And so so when we're talking about behavior, like you might see a bird from far away and you're like, I think it's a heron or an egret or something, but then watch what it's doing, because if it's kind of stalking, then it might be the egret or the heron. If it's doing that, running around like a nut, it's probably the tricolored. And if it's doing this, it's probably the snowy. So you can kind of like narrow it down. This guy, who knows who that is?
My favorite.
They're really pretty. Yeah, they're really pretty, but this is a green heron. And they kind of like crouch, and then they like sneak along, and then they like, you know, go after the prey.
Their neck is really long, but you rarely see it.
You're right.
Only when they like grab something.
Yes, it's so true. That is right. Or unless they're showing like their mate or something like that, which I think I have a picture later I'll show you. Anyway, so it's pretty interesting to watch that behavior, you know? And that's kind of how you can narrow down. Now, I'm gonna go through this real quick. These, I put these in here because they're just funny birds and funny possessions doing kind of funny things, and these are kind of tricky, but we're gonna get there's 4 birds here that I'm gonna give you bonus points for. Okay, so let's see, all right, everybody probably knows this one. Yeah, red-winged blackbird. How about this one?
Morning.
Yeah, and why is it?
Might be cold.
Exactly, it was in the cold and then they puff up because that insulation gives them that air, that air.
To tell you a funny story, I had a guy
Yes.
argue with me at Home Depot, that dove sound was an owl. Oh, I said, he's right there, no, it's an owl.
Somebody said,
He argued with me.
Oh,
No, sir, that's not an owl, that's a dove. No, it's not.
I have people tell me that they swear they have seen flamingos in the Spring Creek Nature Center. I'm saying, like, are you sure they were flamingos? Yes, they were pink. And I'm like, did they kind of have like a bill that looked like a spoon? And they're like, no, they were flamingos. And I'm like,
You can't fix stupid.
okay, yeah, I was like, okay, I've tried to like get them. I go, really? I said, okay.
No, he was sure it was an owl.
It's all right. They could be flamingos if you want them to be flamingos. Anyway, so, all right, so we were talking about the green heron, right? So look at this. That is a green heron. And look, he's got his like crest up there. So something's either agitating him or he's
Got a mohawk.
excited or
So I
something.
didn't even know they had that crest.
Right? You hardly ever see it.
Yeah.
I know, it's lucky to get that. I know, so, and then this one, okay, you'll definitely get bonus points for this one. This is a tough one. Okay. Because it's white and it's not even, I'm gonna tell you this, it's called a reddish egret. But it's a white morphed reddish egret. I know, right? They're usually red. Did you know?
I did not, but I saw a reddish egret for the first time at the beach yesterday.
Cool.
So I had to be like, what is that?
Yeah.
And the fact that
Isn't
it's here now. Is
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
That's so funny. That's what happens, right? You kind of don't know something, then you see something, and then you see it again. It happens a lot like that. But this one's agitated too, because you can see this. Usually you don't see that. It's usually like down, but birds are funny, when they get. Oh, like a ruby crowned kinglet. I don't have a picture of one right here, but I have it somewhere else too. Like they flash their little crown, only when they're like agitated, upset, excited. Were you gonna ask?
On a roadrunner, if you see that come up, does that mean the same thing?
Usually,
Agitated or what?
yeah. And it's hardly ever that you saw roadrunners. That's
In my yard, yeah, and
How
I'm
about
in
your
a
house?
neighborhood, and that's not supposed to be where
No.
they're in an urban area.
I know.
But I have the Sam Houston National Forest is across the highway. kind
That's
of,
probably why.
But he was there many, many times,
Oh,
and up on
neat.
the roof
Oh,
sometimes,
that's cool.
making the weird calls.
You'll have to text me next time he comes.
But it didn't look like a roadrunner at first because, or it didn't, because it
Yeah.
was squatted down and looked fat. You know,
Yeah.
kind of not what I've seen on Bugs Bunny.
Yeah. Yeah, they're unmistakable. They're pretty big. I mean.
Yes, yeah.
Quite big and yeah, the way they,
But once she
Right.
stood up and ran and then the little,
yeah, and the tail and,
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, you could really see.
yeah, they're pretty cool.
I videoed him.
We had one in the middle of Woodlands. I live right off Research and Gosling. And there was one hanging in our neighborhood a couple weeks ago.
Wow. Yeah. And once you have a bird like that, like all the birders will come, they'll be like, can I come and look at it? Like everybody flocks to get there because they.
I have heard that the roadrunners hang out at the golf courses too.
Yeah, I know, it's freaky.
And snakes.
And,
I don't.
Yeah,
it's so freaky. And matter of fact, my next door neighbor, when I was talking to her the other day, she goes, I saw a roadrunner in my backyard last night. And I'm like, you did? I was like, in your backyard? And she's, cause I'm thinking, well, that's like almost in my backyard, And I'm like, where is he? And of course I go out there with binoculars, I'm looking, but I didn't see him. I don't know where he went, but I was like, and she, no, she doesn't know birds that well, but you can't miss a roadrunner, it's like. Anyway, so, yeah, so how about, let's see, okay, how about this guy? Now, we saw them on another slide, but he's facing us. So typically on the side, they have a crescent on their side here, but because he's looking at us, it looks like he has 2 stripes going down his. Oh, that's a blue-winged teal, very pretty bird. This is a male. The males are always prettier, and everybody knows why that is, right? And if not, that's okay. But who could tell me why?
Track the females.
Yep. of
And
course.
we also have
They have
babies, so they
attract.
tend to blend.
Yes, that's exactly why, the females, because sometimes people say, why are the females so dull? Well, they're sitting on the nest usually, and they don't want to attract any attention to themselves, so they have to be kind of dull and kind of blended. And the males are trying to get the mates, and they have to look pretty, and so they try hard to look at their best. Like this one, as a dude. That would crack me up, I was like, do you know what that is?
Like a bow tie on his head.
Isn't that funny? Well, he's probably in molt, because when they both birth molt, they lose feathers and this, but it's a domestic mallard. Because, you know, you ever see mallards, they're all different colors, and they come in white and this and brown and everything, well, it's a mallard. But it's cute, isn't it? It's got its own do. Anyway, so that one, this one you saw before, and that was the yellow crowned night heron. I think he was yawning or yelling, I'm not sure about that, but same bird. Okay, this one, right? Crouched, same bird, look, flat head, spiky head. So it's a green heron, but you know, he's all crouched down, but they're gorgeous birds. And then this one, everybody knows because of the breast being very orangey, right? So red-shouldered hawk. Yep, and then, this guy, how about this? Now, you get a bonus point if you know which cormorant. Yes, it's neotropic and why. Yep, there you go. It's got this, see this little white V there? That is a ID factor for neotropic. Now, they are a little bit smaller than the double crested, and their tails are longer. So people go, how do you tell them apart? And this is how I look. I think double crested, double the size. They're not, but then it makes me think they're bigger. So that's how I kind of think about it. And then I think, but yet they have a shorter tail. The neotropic has a longer tail, but it's a smaller bird. And it's got that, but you don't always see that. And so, and then let's see, this guy. And you get bonus points for that one, because that one's not from around here. It's kind of a hill country.
Looks like a one turkey.
I know, right? It's called a plain chakalaka. I had to put that in there because I was like, it's a chakalaka, and I was like, it's a cool name. I'm putting that in there. So anyway, so
Baby.
courtship. So birds, you know, they court in different ways. These are different herons. So we've got the great egrets, the gray blue herons, and these are little blue herons. We'll talk about those in a sec. And you can see they're actually doing like this courtship dance, and I caught them. And they basically walk in sync. They walk and they put their heads up and they walk like this in sync together, and it's just so cute. And then the guys know what this is. Cedar waxwings. Do you think they're kissing? So the male brings food to the female because that's kind of part of the courtship. It's cute to watch this. So this one, let's see, how many? Oh yeah, I like to show you this. Now, how do I click? I want to click on that. Oh, I guess, yeah, okay. Oh. How do I get this to show up? Let's see. Oh gosh. I'm trying to do the video. Let's see.
I don't know, I heard it.
Control.
I want to get the video to show up here.
Is it on the laptop already?
It's on the laptop.
Get control. I think she just has to drag it over. Is it on two screen?
Well, you know what? I'll just turn it around. I'll just turn it around. I don't know if you can see this. Wait a minute. It's cute. Oh, I wish I could get it to work. Wait a minute.
Here, I think.
Well, first of all, it says here, I don't know what this means. See that? Should I go dismiss?
Yeah.
Dismiss. Because, yeah, like, I think I want to be able to show, wait, go back so that it's, no,
Zoom.
I meant, no. Oh, okay, can we start it from the beginning, guys?
You just because.
No, I'm backwards. Yeah. Oh,
Like-
well, Well,
There
there
you
you go. Thank you. And you're so
You're welcome.
don't know how many, to get it back, I just,
Then you can just X out of it, I think. And it should go back to the.
so this is, I put this in here because it's just cute. The birds have these different ways of when they do their courtship. So sometimes you see mallards like kind of bopping around, but if they're doing that, if they're, you know, that means they're kind of showing courtship. Pinlighters, we don't really see around here, but if you go to the like coast, you might see those and they do this like pushing, reaching thing. It's quite cute, but they all have their own little way of, oh, this one I love. These are hysterical. The head thread. I mean, how would you not like a bird that does that? Like if you, that's impressive. That is so impressive.
She looks like she couldn't care less.
Right? She's like, yeah, whatever, they all. I mean, that would impress the heck out of me, I'll tell you. I love that. It's too cute. And then, of course, they flap on the man, you know, and they do a little head throw and a kick too. They're quite cute. So sometimes it's fun to just watch these birds. Oh yeah, the salute and curtsy. I hope I'm not in any way kind of curtsy to each other. So cute. Anyway, so he's like, get off my territory, get out of here. Anyway, this is cute. So if I can get out of this now, I don't know where my cursor went. Here. Kind of, it kind of disappeared. Cause it went that way, right? Okay, thank you. And then.
You're so
Thank you
welcome.
so much. It's always so nice to have somebody who knows what they're doing with technology. I think, yeah, that was the display, okay. So some birds are, they mate like one per season and, sometimes they mate for life and others mate. They have multiple mates because, you know, they want to make sure that their, you know, genes carry on. So out of all these birds here, oh, look, these little, this is an Egyptian goose. He had little, babies. She had babies. And, these guys are, again, you can see the seed in his mouth feeding each other. These are in my backyard. Those are the whistling ducks. They used to come all the time. They haven't come lately. These guys, they're black-necked stilts. I was down in the Whooping Crane Festival down in Aransas this past, it was freezing. But it was a good way to see birds because they were all kind of huddled together to try to stay warm. So I got to see a lot of birds in one place. But these were funny because they were like, I said, I was taking the pictures. I'm like, they look like they're gonna mate because they were sort of like being all like cute and everything like that. So sure enough, they copulated and everything. And then we figured a lot of times after that, they go their separate ways and that's it. And the female goes, oh, like this, and then that's it. Well, they were still together and cuddling and this and that. And that's why I took the picture because I thought, that is just so cute. I mean, they're all so lovey-dovey and everything like that. It was sweet. So I had a like series of pictures and I sent it to some of my bird friends and they're like, this is a G-rated thing here, you know? So I said, all right.
Did you find out if they're monogamous or the stilts monogamous?
They are, but like if one of them dies off, you know, they'll go with somebody else. But some of them won't even go with another mate. There's a few that don't. But the mallards, these mallards here, they're like the most promiscuous duck. As you know, they'll go with anything. As a matter of fact, those mottled ducks, they'll mate with the mottled ducks. And I always think mottled mallard, I call them mallards because they're a hybrid of both. But the mallards, that's why you see like a mix up. You see mashup of those ducks. That's because they're just they just mate with a lot of different. And then here's just some, just for example, some that do mate for life. There's a few here that mate for life, like these black vultures that we have around, lovebirds. Some of them we don't see here, but some of them we do, mourning doves, bald eagle. And then there's the longest living birds. I just did this in here because some people go, how long do birds live? And, some of them are long living, but a lot of them are either in captivity because, they're taken care of. Or they're on some kind, if you look at some of these birds, they're far away, like they're somewhere off some island somewhere because nobody's bothering them. There's no human habitation that's causing them to have to leave, and they're the ones that live longest, That kind of tells us something right there, doesn't it? So let's see, we were talking about behavior. And so, oops, it goes a little further than I want sometimes. What are they doing? So these birds, if you look at them, right? So they're all doing something different. Now, this, you guys know it's a mockingbird, right? What do you think it's doing with that thing?
Eaten.
It's like a bug, yeah.
Probably getting ready to take it to its nest or something.
Yeah, so see, like, it's all interpretive, isn't it? He could be eating it himself, or he could be taking it to the nest, to the young. Same with this, is a red-tailed hawk. And it's carrying, looks like a bird,
I see it's little. Can't really see.
Yeah, I think it's a bird. And it could be eating it itself, but chances are it's taking it to its nest. And I kind of know that it is because I actually was watching that bird sort of build the nest, have the young, and like I was kind of watching it it was in the Spring Creek Nature Trail.
Okay.
It was in one of those big high pine trees, like right over the parking lot. And I could just see, I was kind of watching the progress.
Which trailhead?
It was right over the parking lot. like-
And Snyder.
Yeah, in Snyder.
Okay.
As you enter the parking lot, like if you're looking back, if you're leaving it, it's in the country, like on the
Oh,
left,
okay, got it.
it was up there. Not this year, but, and then how about this one? This is, looks like what, nesting material? Yeah. But it's not always apparent what they're doing. I mean, this guy, he's obviously eating a peanut. Bluebirds, this is my bluebird box, that was the male feeding the young. How about these?
They're fighting.
You guys know, right? Does anybody have hummingbird feeders up, or do they put feeders up? You guys put?
No, but they come to my yard and if one comes in their territory.
Yes,
Immediately.
they will fight, you're right, they fight like unbelievable. As a matter of fact, I've seen them fight. One of them was pummeling the other one from the top, the other ones, they'll fight, like, they'll do like this, and then they go down to the ground, and they'll be like fighting on the ground, like, they're amazing, I mean, they're just so territorial. And the thing is, like, I put up about, like, this one's got like 4 ports, right? I put about like 3 or 4 of these out, in different places. And one bird will sit on that one port and just guard it, you're like, they don't share, they don't wanna share, they fight, but then what happens is if you get a lot, then they can't, what can they do? They're like, and then your yard is like, you got like, like all over the place fighting each other, right? It's crazy. So this one, we don't know what this is, now this, some other hawk, what do you think's happening here?
She's singing away from its nest.
Yes, yes, I mean, that's the thing, like, sometimes you think, well, a bigger bird is gonna like win out, but not always. A lot of times the smaller birds will mob up on the big birds, chase them off because they don't want them near their nest and their territory, How about these guys? This is a red belly, that's a red-headed. You can see, right, they're fighting over that nest cavity there. Who do you think will win?
The one that's occupied.
Exactly, that's the thing. I get, this is. I know, right? This is another one of those ones, this was in, Lakeside Park. And I was watching those, and it belonged to the red-bellied, but the red-headed was trying to kind of muscle in. This guy did all the work. But the thing is, like, red-headed, there's always like this hierarchy in birds, and if you ever notice at the feeders, there's certain birds that will take over, and when it comes to woodpeckers, the red-headed is like the king. I mean, when he comes, everybody, except for the the pileated. The pileated, of course, is bigger, so, but they don't come to feeders. But at the feeders, the redheaded is the king, he pushes everybody off. And then the red bellied, and then the downy, so there's like a hierarchy type of thing. But you can't always, it's kind of deceiving. And then this guy is doing acrobatics, that's a little orange-crowned warbler doing acrobatics.
Tell me he's not eating cows.
He is, I know, it's terrible, isn't it? I think they are tallow seeds, aren't they? That's what we don't need, but anyway. And then this one is a red tailed hawk. And I put that in there because you see, he's got the squirrel right under his foot, right? And so I'm watching this thing, it's in the back, it's in my backyard, and he's like this. And I'm thinking, wow, he's gonna have to stand there a long time. He's probably gonna like squeeze the air out of this poor squirrel, and the squirrel's gonna be like asphyxiated. And he was there for a really long time. Then I guess he got a little tired and he sort of moved his foot a little bit to probably give himself, a change. Poof, that squirrel. I was like, dude, you are so lucky because he was ready to be dinner. Yeah, and so the squirrel actually was bleeding, but he lived. So good squirrel. The hawk, oh well, he's gotta learn to, I guess, hang on better. Right? And then here's some more birds. Let's see. All right, we'll just go over a couple more of these and then we'll get into some other stuff. I like to keep you engaged. So, you're feeling like part of this. I don't want to be like blah, blah, blah to you the whole time, but I will be blah, blah, blah to you. So, but we're gonna just kind of quickly go through these and see if you know these. Okay, so shout out.
Carolyn.
Yep,
Rosie.
yeah.
Yeah, we do. Sure.
I know it's hard to tell this one. It is a red-tailed hawk. Because if it was a red shoulder, to have a little more like this one. But there's a bonus, red shoulders, right? These guys, we've seen them before. Little crescent on their head. Blue and teal, yeah.
You tell us, no, it's probably too much detail, but how can you tell the difference between blue wing and green wing in that condition?
The green wings are a little bit smaller. I know it's hard to tell, but the coloring, like, and where the white is, usually it's where the white is there. And if you see that crescent on the head,
Okay,
the females are hard to tell apart.
Okay.
But if they're near each other, you could, but like, the coloring's a little different here.
okay. I just have to try to.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
It's really tricky, but usually the teal are like the smallest ducks that we have around here, really, a green-winged teal. And they're tiny. And then these are a little bigger, but I know you need that relative, size difference, but this guy, this is a little giveaway.
Is that a kestrel?
No, it is a hawk,
No.
a hawk with a white tail. It is a white tail hawk. That's right. Okay, how about this one?
Green. No, that's a.
No.
Night heron,
Yep.
but I don't know which one.
Well, the other one was yellow crown, and this one is.
Oh, it's a black crown.
Yeah, black crown, yeah, black crown, yeah. And then this one, I know that's a tough one, because we don't have them so much around here, but
Harvard.
Harris is.
Harris.
Yeah. Okay, this,
Great horn, night horn.
yes, and what do you think this bird is here?
Oxford,
Yep, and what's going on there?
trying to get them on there.
Yeah, and it's so funny, because again, you got this big
Don't
owl.
miss anything.
Right, and the mockingbirds are like bombing this owl, and the owl is sitting there like, yeah, right, whatever,
Yeah.
like, and he's gonna get just like. Like hit on the head, and he's kind of, really? And so, that was kind of funny to watch. These two, they're different, right?
Aren't there like monk periods or something like that?
So they are parrots, and one's a red crown and one's a white fronted. Yeah, now if you knew that, like I said, it's honor system, if you knew that, give yourself a bonus point. If you didn't, it's okay, no shame. Those are tough ones. Not really, they were down like in the hill country, like, yeah, they're like south of here. Actually, south of here they were.
But They're not.
So the parrot, is it native or is it like the parrot flocks in San Francisco?
Yeah, like they were introduced and now
were
they're
introduced,
here,
yeah.
like they're in Brownsville, like down in Brownsville. Hmm. Sort of like Egyptian goose kind of came and now they,
Would you like?
Yeah, now that they're there.
I guess so. Let's see.
Guaranteed 5 minutes, no more.
Okay, I mean, I did have a place for a break, but that's fine.
Oh, do you? Okay,
I did.
okay, well then we'll wait.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
What, if you feel like you need a break, do you want a break now?
No, I just thought that was a good, if you've got a break schedule, we need.
I do. I have 2 breaks scheduled in, so, yeah, but if you guys need a break now, we could, not yet, okay.
Go.
All right, we're on a roll. Okay, so why do birds live in different places? Well, first they have to meet the needs for the resources. So food, water, they need food and water, and wetlands will provide the insects and invertebrates and aquatic plants and things for the waterfowl. And then forests will offer seeds and insects for fruits and things for woodpeckers and thrushes, things like that. They obviously require suitable shelter and nesting sites. And then to raise their young, and they want to protect themselves from predators. So different habitats offer different opportunities. So, you know, forests, cliffs, wetlands, they have different opportunities for each type of bird, depending on what they need. And of course, when the temperature changes, they want to be in a better climate, you know, like when it gets too cold, they want to come to where it's warm. And so that's one of the reasons they migrate. And we'll talk about migration in a bit. Suitable breeding grounds. Obviously they need, you know, water for waterfowl, open spaces for ground nesting type birds. And then tree cavities for owls and woodpeckers and things like that. So I wanted to just show you this. These are cliff swallows that were at Guadalupe State Park. And I don't know if you could see, but in the top ones, they're actually gathering mud. See, this one's got some mud right in his bill. They're gathering mud in their bills. Can you see that? Yeah, so they all come together, they flock into these puddles, they gather the mud. And then they bring them to their nests, which are in holes in the cliffs. And I'll show you the next slide. There's cliffs here. Which these cliffs are where they bring in, they're going into those holes. So it's pretty fun to watch them gathering all that mud and then heading up to the cliffs to build their nest. So this one here is a little downy woodpecker that builds a nest in my dead tree. I have like a dead limb. And so it likes the dead because it's easier to build that nest cavity. So it had its young there. And or she had her young there. Well, they both work together, actually. They both feed the young and everything. So that was pretty cool. And then this one, red-bellied woodpecker, same thing, built this out of dead trees. And I leave them, you know, unless they're gonna fall on the house or hurt somebody or something, I leave the dead snags because they're good for the birds. They love them for the insects and for the nest cavities. And so they built their nest and had young. This is a rookery down the street from Spring Creek Nature Trail. It's called the Sookie Pond. I call it the Sookie Rookie because it's a rookery. So my Sookie Rookie down the street is a rookery, and there's tons of like cattle egret and mostly cattle egret, but there are some like great egrets and not too many snowies mixed in, but big cormorants and stuff, but it's an island, so of course there's no predators. Predators can't get there, so it's very safe for them, and they love it. And so that's again nesting opportunities for them. This little killdeer, they just build their nest like right in the ground, and so you'll see them sometimes in the ground. And the thing is with them, like they will feign like an injury. They'll pretend that they have an injury so that they can like get you away from the nest. So like if somebody's coming near their nest, they'll pretend like they're or whatever, so that you look at them instead of the nest. So it's quite smart, you know. They have their ways of trying to survive, really.
Looks like sandy soil.
Yeah. And of course, they have the, you know, varied dietary needs. The cedar waxwings, will eat the berries. At the end of the season, when the berries kind of ferment, those waxwings will eat the berries and they'll literally get drunk. And so they have been known to like fly. It's funny, but it's kind of sad because they can't fly very good. They get disoriented, they're drunk, they'll like fall off their perch, they like fly into things and they'll eat the berries they don't know, and you got drunk birds flying around. So it is kind of funny, but, and then you've got a green jay here. This green jay is eating some seeds. He's also in the hill country. You don't see him around here, but they're really pretty. I wanted to put him in there because he's so pretty.
Yeah, it's Valley, right?
Yeah, in the valley, Rio Grande Valley and the hill country. And then, you've got cardinals and the jays that they eat the nuts and the seeds and things. And then you've got your bluebirds, warblers, who will eat, insects. The cormorants and the herons, they're kind of interesting because if you notice, so this cormorant, he's got a fish there. I was watching him. This one, look at the size of this fish.
That's the best
This-
fish.
Does anybody know what that fish is? I don't. I'm not a fisher.
Straight bass, hard to
Is it? And this was in the Spring Creek, and I was watching this heron for a longest time, and he was trying to, he's got a head first now, but he was like flipping it around and turning and everything. And then he's like, he's like trying to get it down to smell it. And the thing is like half there and the tail's going in, and it's like amazing. And then when they finally swallow it, you could like see the thing wiggling and
Yeah.
go in. And I mean, they're funny to watch, but they'll just do whatever it takes, and I'm like, wow, okay, so that's him. And then we have to ask ourselves, why is bird biodiversity important? Well, it is important because it benefits us as far as humans. I mean, they obviously act as pollinators and seed dispersers for lots of plants that are valuable to us, things like trees for building materials and of course, food and plant-based medicines and things like that. Now grosbeaks, finches, sparrows, they can't process all the seeds that they consume. So what they do is they pass them through their digestive system, and a lot of times it's miles away. So of course, that's going to help to disperse the seeds in other areas. So we need them for that. Hummingbirds and orioles, they'll pollinate the flowers and the plants. And then blue jays, they'll store seeds a lot of times in winter and they put them in the ground and, unknowingly plant something. And that happens a lot. Like I know in my backyard, I see crows and stuff, I see birds like caching things away. Acorn woodpeckers, they're not around here, but they have like a little tree that they store and cache food for the winter, And basically they regulate the pests and all the diseases by eating all those insects and vertebrates. And then the scavengers, they clean up all the carcasses and all the things that would pile up normally. And I just have this little slide in here because I took a picture of this. The black vulture, only a face a mother could love, of course. But, basically they're nature's janitors. They clean up all the carcasses and things like that. So why do you think the vulture crossed the road?
To get to the carcass,
Do what?
to get to the carcass.
Because the chicken didn't make it? That's terrible.
Cute.
Oh, no. But, okay, so ecotourism, that's really important because, birding festivals and like bird watching is really at the heart of ecotourism. Because you've got like leaders who lead tours and you got bird festivals, so people come, they eat at the restaurants, they use the hotels and all that. So it's very important that way too. And it attracts people from all over the world because a lot of birders will travel the world to see birds. I mean, when I went to Australia, I hired a guide and he took me around to see birds that I'd never know where to look, so that was really good. And not to mention that just they're beautiful. I mean, we love having them around, whether it's for spiritual, they're just good for the soul. When you see a bird, it's just like, it makes you feel good and their voices of nature. So it's just important to us and to everything around. And as far as their role in nature, I got one more slide and we'll take a break. They play a very integral role in the ecosystem. As we were just talking about, they're connected to pretty much every living thing. They regulate the population of the small, of the animals that they eat. That's that one, these, especially the woodpeckers, they're basically keystone species in the forest because they have like these strong bills. They chisel out the holes, but then other animals get to use them too, because if you think about it, like nuthatches, bluebirds, there are birds that use cavities to nest, but they can't build their own hole. So, we've got the woodpeckers doing it for them, which is very nice of them. I don't think they know it, but they do it, and that's great. Anyway, so, and it's interesting, and so, they keep the population of the mice down and the rodents and stuff. I mean, we have, woods in our backyard, and, there's gonna be different things that come around, and sometimes people, it's funny because I think, well, why don't we live with wildlife? We don't have to kill everything. There's a lot of people that say like, oh, there's a snake, gotta kill it. There's this, gotta kill it. And it's like, no, we don't have to kill everything. Let's live with everything. So the arborist will come around to my house and they'll say, you got a dead tree over there. Do you want to take it down? And I'm like, no, because you know what? The pileated woodpecker comes, the birds are feeding, babies in their nests. I've got birds all over the place. I don't like to spray because again, we don't want to, and we'll get into more of that too. But I like to kind of keep, there's a balance, and I like to kind of keep that balance, So sometimes too, birds might be the predators for other, on small islands, they might be the predators, for those islands and kill, like, say, the rats or whatever, that the rats will climb up the tree and eat the eggs in the nest. And, rats are a big problem for some of these birds that, just don't have a chance because rats and things will get to them and they don't belong on those islands. So sometimes you'll need the hawks or bigger birds to prey on those. And of course, they're prey for other wildlife, if you think about it, everybody has to live. I always hate when I see the birds come to my feeder, like I see the hawks. It's interesting because the Cooper's hawk will come through and it'll be like so fast and the birds will just scatter. And, I think, well, stay away from my birds, go catch a mouse or something else. Anyway, so we could take a break. Oh, before we do, okay, I'm gonna say, before we do you guys have a tally of what your numbers that
It's too fast.
you didn't keep it? Oh,
It's a lot.
It was a little fun though, so.
oh,
I can tell you I picked on the first slide. You can't.
Well-
My first slide was the best and then quickly went downhill.
oh, okay, well, all right. I had some posters, I wanted to give out some posters, and I'll tell you why. So the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, they have a lot of different programs, and I think when you join, one of the programs, they give you this, and it's really cool, it's, I don't know if you guys have these at all, it's, 120 different species, right, of birds, and it's kind of fun, like, it's good for kids, you could do it with, that has a little game or something, and you see which ones you can ID. Now on the back, it does have them, and it tells you like the size, and it tells you what they are, whether they're female or male or whatever. But it's a really cool little poster. And so, I wanted to sort of give out those to, well, the people, actually was gonna give them to the people who had the highest numbers, but also the people that had the lowest numbers, because they need them. Right, they need them probably more, so, anyway, if you have an idea of what your numbers are, let's just say, if you think about it, if you got 50 or more, anybody got 50 or more points?
How many pictures did you have?
Well, let's put it this way, I think there were 94 possible points, and that's with the bonus. That's with the bonus points, right? But like I
I'm gonna
said,
nominate the person behind me who called out everything.
so there's no shame in, there's no shame if you didn't get them, but who would like one of these? I have 4 of them. I was gonna give 2 to the highest and 2 to the lowest. So we'll have to kind of see who, All right, first of all, stand up if you want one. All right. And then we'll say, like, you have to, no, even though? Sure. All right. Okay, so now comes the honor system, because I got 4. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So out of you 6, who do you think had the lowest number?
I had 24. I did count one.
Okay.
Oh, she's gonna get a out.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
You play the long game.
Well, you guys decided on just on that. I'll let you guys decide. There's 3 here. All right, and
Marty, you
That's
do
like-
most of them.
sorry.
You do a lot of the-
Well, no, I didn't know the specifics. I'm like, oh, that's a no, but I don't know what that is.
Can you use one?
I have plenty of resources.
You have,
Yeah, I do.
okay, and who else wanted? Okay.
I did the backyard bird count and I realized how much I didn't know.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, that is it. I know, when we were going so fast and, I guess, all right, that's that. Okay, so let's take a break. I was gonna say I'll see you in 10 minutes, but if you wanna do, are we going good with time?
How much time do you need, how much?
Let's see, I guess we're about halfway through.
We're making 5 minutes.
All right, is 5 minutes good? A little break and then we'll come back. And then we'll talk about migration. All right, we're back.
We're back.
We're back, kitty back. So just, I know this is just my 10-minute slide, but you know what? I thought it was cool because this is actually one picture. I got this juvenile bald eagle flying with the moon in the background. I mean, how often do you get a picture that's just like right on like that, So that's pretty cool. That's why I stuck it in there. Yeah, and I like the sunset here. And then this was at the Spring Creek Nature Center, this one, in the morning when the mist was coming along. It was so moody and so cool, right? And then this one was down in Cape May, so most of the pictures I took like in the area, but that one I took in Cape May in New Jersey, because I just so happened, I was looking at the lighthouse and then the flock came over and I was like, anyway. So we're gonna talk about migration. Ed was asking me about, he said to me, Ed said, I have hummingbirds that come through my yard. And he goes, and I see them sometimes, then I don't see them, and then I see them again. Well, the reason being that there is a migration cycle that happens every year. And basically, when the birds are overwintering, there's the stationary period, nothing much is going on, they're kind of hanging out. And that's between the fall and the early spring. They sort of hang out, and those are the birds that we see around here a lot. And then in Texas, and it's different everywhere you go because of course the climate and things. So, but in Texas, between March and May is when they are migrating back to their breeding grounds. For all those reasons we were saying about food sources and things like that. So in the spring, they migrate back, then in the summer, that's where they will be in their breeding grounds. And then in the winter, as September, November, as it gets colder, they're migrating back south. So
For all species.
pretty much, yeah, pretty much. And there's some that don't migrate very far, but we'll talk about that in a second too. So you go like, well, why do birds migrate? Oh, by the way, I took this picture in Anahuac, and these are white-fronted geese and snow geese. I mean, isn't that amazing? Like, that was how many birds were around when I took this picture. I mean, it was just the noise. I don't know if you've ever heard snow geese. I mean, they're loud, and it was just like deafening. It was so cool. So that's why I had to put that. So I know you can't read it too good, but I had to put the birds up there. But basically, it's instinct and it's genetic. So there's this innate type behavior or a biological clock that happens. And they basically have like this circadian rhythm. They get a little restless and something tells them you gotta go. And so usually it's like the daylight starts getting light, it starts getting dark or whatever, and they know that it's time to leave. So, it's basically, seasonal changes. They want to escape the harsh winter because, they want to stay somewhere where it's freezing, so they want to go down to warmer temperatures and better food sources and more resources. Because if you think about it, in winter, there's less insects, there's less seeds, so they need to go where they're gonna find food. And then there's less competition for the resources, so, they wanna find nesting sites, they wanna find mates, breeding opportunities, and so it drives them to seek areas where there's less competition. So if we look at this map and say, well, where do they go? So all 4 of the American flyways. Now, there are, just so you know, there's 5 other primary flyways, and they're utilized by the birds in Europe, Asia, Africa, and Australia. But for our purposes, we're talking about North America. Most of the birds are funneled down through this little sort of, there's so there's 4 different flyways, and again, I'm gonna go into that more detail, but there's 4 different flyways, and they all funnel down through here. So basically, the flyways kind of follow the land masses because, the birds kind of need to rest and refuel along the way. So this point here is usually a really good spot for birders. That's where people want to go because the birdies want to go because that's where all the birds are kind of concentrated in one point. Now some birds actually fly over the Gulf and they need to like rest and refuel. So if you've ever heard like birders talk about a fallout, they'll say, oh, there was a fallout. Well, basically, the birds are like falling out of the sky. I mean, they're exhausted because they have traveled so far and they're just exhausted and they basically just flop and they have to rest and they have to eat. Now, this is a pretty cool migration map. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology, which is in Ithaca, New York, they are the team that has like eBird and Merlin and all those great apps that we will talk about. They basically documented 118 species of birds throughout the year. And this is kind of how you can see like the colors are the months. And this is kind of where they're going. So there's a lot of these birds are going all the way from South America. And as you can see, as the temperatures get warmer, they're coming up to their breeding grounds. And some of them are going way up to Canada and North America. And then the whole season changes again as the cycle repeats itself and comes down, and you can see how they funnel down again in the later months. It's cool, isn't it? I like it. Cornell Lab is
Is one dog is one species, is that,
it's the January, like, so this is January.
yeah, but each
And
of the dog is, one species?
No, it's just like a group,
Oh,
yeah, kind of like a group of birds, like it's just showing sort of the
Mhm.
large group. Just to kind of give you an idea. And then, so North American flyways, there's 4 major flyways. So there's first the Pacific Flyway that the birds tend to follow the coast. And they can go as far as Alaska and then to South America. So they'll follow the coast. The Atlantic Flyway, same kind of thing. They hug the coastline, although some of them do go over the Gulf of Mexico. And then the Central Flyway, which is where we are located, Texas. So Texas is really amazing because if you look at it, like the Central Flyway here, it tends to follow the edge of the Rocky Mountains. It goes all the way up to Canada. And then there's also the Mississippi Flyway, which takes a lot of the different birds that funnels down and that follows the path of the Mississippi River. And usually the reason they do that is because it is basically like a funnel type of a thing, and it kind of helps them. And I'll talk about Texas being in the path. Let's go to that now, and then we'll talk about the modes. So Texas is in the path of 2 of the principal flyways. So right now we have about 300 species that are documented as migrating through Texas. So when I moved here and I was in Virginia and I was birding there, because I think, I don't know if I mentioned that I started doing the bird walks there. I guess when I was when I lived in Virginia, I was starting to do the bird walks, and that kind of got me into it when I was doing that atlas. I used to go on the bird walks, and then the bird walk leader said, like, would you like to co-lead the walk? And I was like, sure. So I really got into it. And then when I came here, I was along the Spring Creek Nature Trail riding my bike because I mountain biked and that. And I said, I saw the ponds and thought, oh my gosh, there's a lot of nice birds here. And this was before it opened. And then the Bayou Land Conservancy put their signs up. So I called them up and I said, hey, I've been leading bird walks for years and everything. I could lead some bird walks here. And they were like, sure. Would you like to do the ambassador program that we offer? I was like, yeah, definitely. So I took that ambassador program and then I started volunteering and leading the bird walks. So the reason I'm telling that is just because when I moved here, everybody was like, they're like, oh my God, you're so lucky you're moving to Texas. There's like all the birders are like, that's the like major flyways of the migration. They're like Texas is amazing for birds. You don't realize like if we take them for granted, but we have tons of birds migrating through here because we're in the path of two of those principal flyways, the Mississippi and the Central. So it provides a lot of habitat for wintering. So the winter birds have somewhere to go. The ones from the north will come to Texas. Some of them don't go as far as South America, and they stay in Texas, so they might winter here. And then it also provides the summer nesting habitat for the species that come from the south. So the birds that are coming up from the south come up and they will want to nest here. So, we're kind of in the middle there. And then there's like stopover sites, which we definitely need. And that's around the upper Texas coast. And they're very, very important because there's wetlands for all the birds that need the wetlands. There's beaches, there's marshes, there's lots of feeding areas, and there's a lot of nesting sites. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with some of these places, Boulevard Flats, Rancis National Wildlife Refuge, High Island, Anahuac National Wildlife Refuge, state parks along the coast. Have you guys ever gone to any of these places? Yeah. No? Who's been there? Yeah. Okay, great for birds. I mean, birders flock to these places because they are really good for migration. But you get birds all through the year too, because again, some of them are nesting. These are wood storks, by the way. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we get wood storks here. I mean, they're not carrying babies, but what were you saying?
No, we have had here, right?
At the Spring Creek Nature Trail, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I took all these pictures around here. So the Texas coast, it's got one of the most biodiverse coastlines. It's about 600 miles or so. It stretches over 600 miles and it provides this rich ecosystem for these stopover sites for the birds. Millions of songbirds stop and a lot of the long distance migrants too. So, and it's interesting because we have a lot of small little coastal islands and they're important because they provide wintering grounds and nesting opportunities in spring. And then there's rookeries that are formed, and the rookeries are formed, like I was saying, on those islands because there's less predators that can come across and get to them. So, however, it has its problems. It does suffer from pollution because a lot of the rivers are flowing into the Gulf of Mexico. Now you could go to Galveston and sometimes the water is like churned up, and it's because a lot of the other rivers are flowing into it. And so, between sea level rise and tropical storms, a lot of the islands are starting to disappear. And of course, you've got people building homes and commercial buildings, and then stores, and there's more concrete, more parking lots, and then it's replacing a lot of that habitat, that critical habitat that they need for stopover. So, and the coastlines are crowded with people, because you know what? People want to be on the coast, but the birds do too. I mean, that's the trouble. Like, we're kind of fighting over the same territory here, the same real estate. And so, and then boats, construction, a lot of the beach nesting birds like terns and things, they can't find like nice, quiet, secluded spots to raise their chicks. And that could be a problem too. So, we have a lot of influence on what happens in these areas. So this is interesting because we have some long distance migrants. The Arctic tern has the longest migration of all the birds. They go from the Arctic to Antarctica, a round trip of over 44,000 miles a year. I know, amazing, right? And then the Bartel Godwits, they're known for the longest nonstop flight in the avian world. It's amazing because they go from Alaska to New Zealand nonstop, 6,800 miles. I mean, it's incredible. And sometimes some of these birds, like boats, like fisher boating people will see birds like out in the pelagic, like they'll see birds sitting on their boat. It's probably because the bird's exhausted, just so tired and it's just stopping to rest there for a little bit, The Swainson's hawk, North America, South America, round trip, 12,000 miles. The Calliope hummingbird, which is the smallest bird, 5,000 miles round trip each year. The ruby-throated hummingbird, which we get in our yards, and Ed, you were saying how they come and everything. Well, they are literally going from North America to Central America. They cross the Gulf nonstop for up to 500 miles. I mean, if you think about that, it's like the bird had breakfast, right? It's what they had for breakfast. That's their fuel. They're using their own power, their little wings. They're so tiny and they're crossing the Gulf. And you know how many things could happen along the way, and somehow it's amazing that they even make it. I mean, look, if we go 500 miles, we're like packing the car with all kinds of stuff, right? We're bringing all our snacks and our food and our drink, and we got to stop, and it's like 500 miles is a long way. It's hard to fathom, isn't it? I mean, it's hard to even put your head around that, Anyway, but some birds, I guess some of the smart ones, they migrate just the short distances. So ones like the robins, American robins, the red-winged blackbirds, the song sparrows, they will just do like a short migration. So some of them will just go from because people think, oh, do I see the same cardinals, like the ones that are around? They might be different cardinals. They might be the ones from maybe like up in Maine or something, like maybe they're coming from North America or Canada, but they're just coming to Texas. They're not going to go across the Gulf. But then there's other ones maybe that are in South America and they're coming up, but they're not going to go all the way up to Canada. They're going to stay in Texas, so we're kind of in the middle, and that's really nice that we have this. So it's very important. And it's important for us, I think, to realize that, we have to maintain this critical habitat for these birds. And I think as Texas master naturalists, we always want to kind of spread that word, oops, this thing just kind of goes on its own sometimes. So I have here some, let's see, I had winter visitors. Let's just look, winter residents. So here's some of the winter birds that come. That's so funny. It's like going by itself. Okay. So here's some of the birds. And again, you guys might recognize some of these, but we're not doing points anymore, so it kind of doesn't matter. But let's just see if we could get a few. So
Red-wing.
yeah. Red-winged blackbird. Sorry. Somebody pointed out that when we mumble the answer, I'm going to repeat the answer. I'm sorry, I didn't do that earlier, and I'm going to try to do that now. So, right.
Carolina wren.
Song sparrow, yep, song sparrow.
Waxwing.
Cedar waxwing, yep.
Red cap sparrow.
Muddy. Swamp sparrow, right, bob's tail.
Phoebe.
Eastern phoebe, yeah. Little eye-ring, pink bill, field sparrow.
He's so cute.
These, they never look the same, but here, I'll give you a hint.
Oh,
Yeah. Right?
Yellow-rumped.
Yellow-rumped warbler, and but they never, to me, yellow-rumped warblers, they all look different. I mean, they look the same, but they're different. They have a lot of different colorings and stuff like that.
The barrel.
Yeah.
So then I did. Oh.
Ruby crown kinglet, yep, if you get that anxious or excited, you get that little red, it's only popping out a little bit, but sometimes. How about this one? that goldfinch, yep, and it's not in its breeding plumage. Who said that? Yeah, good. Yeah, it's not in its breeding plumage. I know I had goldfinch that came to my yard in Virginia and my friend came over, a biker, and he was like, you have canaries in your backyard. It's cute. How about this one? It could be mixed up with the mockingbird.
Oh, I know
Was
that.
it a shrike?
Yep, loggerhead shrike. And
Their food on.
yeah,
I know.
let's do, oh, these guys. Now, they're a little mixed in, there's a couple different ones here.
More flareters, but I don't know which was which.
Well, we have goldfinches, it's the winter. This was here in Texas when we got snow not too long ago, like a couple of years ago, I guess we got some snow. So, there were some chipping sparrows. Little chipping sparrows, these guys. The ones with the chipping sparrows and goldfinches came. So yeah, you gotta kind of give them some help. Right? And how about these? So those are like our winter birds that kind of stay in the winter. This thing wants to skip ahead. And then we got some spring people. Now, so through the migration, when we were saying how those birds come through, we only see these at certain times a year and they, gift us with their presence and their color, so, how about this one? Indigo bunting, yeah.
Oh, is that a brown thrasher?
Brown thrasher, yeah, very good. This one's in my backyard right now.
Yeah.
It's a flycatcher
Yeah.
and it's great crested. Yeah, we've got, and then there's two different group. Ruby throated hummingbirds are the ones we see a lot at Etsy's, yeah.
You see these in our area?
In our area, yes. Well, not every single bird, like most of these. But the ruby throat, and then this one's the rufous, and they come sometimes in the winter. They'll come through, but,
Attitude.
sorry.
They're the ones with the worst attitude.
Are they? That's so funny. So the orioles, this is a Baltimore oriole, they love oranges. And they come through, that's a female, that's a male. This is a painted bunting, usually they're in west of here, like the hill country. But I've seen them, I saw them once in the Springfield Nature Center, I remember where I saw it too. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, painted bunting. I mean, looks like somebody actually took paint and painted the thing, it's so beautiful. Here's one, got spectacles. It's a vireo. Blue-headed vireo. How about this guy? Looks like a little mouse climbing a tree.
It's a mouse climbing a tree.
This one's called a brown creeper. That comes in the winter too, brown creeper. This one,
Roasted, roast beef.
look at the bill. What do you know about it? It's a seed eater, right? Cracking those seeds, and you were mentioning, you said something. Grosbeak, yep, it's a rose-breasted grosbeak, male, gorgeous. And let's see what else. I guess we got most of them. Oh, we got the song sparrow. And this one.
Yeah.
Last but not least. That's a tough one. It's a warbler. Orange crown warbler. You don't hardly ever see the orange crown. That's just not, but there you go. So that's that one. So I have here spring visitors to my feeders. Put out, well, see, I wasn't here because I was in Italy. So I missed the spring migration. I mean, oh my God, but I got it over there, which was nice. Different birds. Yeah, yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah, they're everywhere, and I got to learn some Italian birds, which is really nice, and, they all, they all sing with their wings. Yeah, so, anyway, and they kept trying to get me to eat, these birds were like, eat, lunge, eat. Okay, well, I have an Italian background, and my grandmother was always like, eat, are you hungry, eat, and it's like, believe me, we ate, anyway, cause the pasta's so good there, it's like amazing. Oh, forget it, don't get me started on the mozzarella. They had homemade mozzarella that they made in front of us and they had us taste it. You've never tasted mozzarella till you've had homemade mozzarella. I know, it's amazing. And burrata, which has like regatta in the inside. Oh my goodness. Anyway, it's mind boggling. Worth 10 pounds that I gained. Anyway, so in the spring, if you put up oranges and grape jelly, but it has to be organic grape preserves. It can't be like the cornstarch cheapy Hill Country Farm or whatever. It's gotta be like good grape preserves, the real thing, because we don't want to feed, birds junk anyway. But if you put that up there, oh my goodness, the orioles will come and you can see, well, I've got a downy woodpecker, I've got a rose-breasted grosbeak, because they're not the only ones. And then these are the orioles, right? Orioles, there was another downy and then the orioles here. They were going crazy for this jelly. I went through 1.5 jars of grape jelly, 1.5, the big one and a smaller one. That was last season. This season, like I said, I missed them, unfortunately. I did put my jelly out, but they didn't come, so. Anyway, it was too late, but yes, they are so fun to have around. And because one year when they first came, they were like clamoring around looking for food and I didn't know. And I thought, oh, they're looking around. And then it was kind of not too late, but then I got it out there and then they left because they probably went like to somebody else's feeders or something, but.
So is that like February you start putting it out?
No, it's like, so our migration is like March, April, May. Probably around April or so. But it could be March, April, or May, because you know what?
It's earlier.
You just never know. It all depends on what's happening with the temperature. And I try to get it out there early if I can, because I want them to find mine first, So,
Do you have problems with squirrels?
no, because I have a lot of squirrel baffles. So, you probably can't see them on this feeder, but I've got, baffles on my feeders. So, and I also put petroleum jelly on the pole so that snakes can't climb up and that squirrels can't climb up. And you have to keep them like 6 feet from another tree because they'll jump. Those squirrels will, oh my goodness. And I also have the kind that close, like my feeders, these are just those feeders, but I have the kind that close when they still try to figure it out. They're upside down, they're trying to figure it. They reach from the tree and see if they could do it that way. I mean, they're like crazy. Raccoons too. Raccoons do the same thing. They're like, hang on and try to like shake, but they learn, they shake it. And then the seed goes down. They're so smart. We can't outsmart Mother Nature, So through the years, there's been different ways of monitoring these birds. And so, basically, it used to be that they use like metal bands with tags back in the 1800s, and then telescopes. People would actually go out and count birds in the night sky. I know, but then they had like radio transmitters, satellite tags, passive integrated transponders, global location centers, GPS lockers, electronic radio transmitted tracking devices, and all that. So basically, and even though those geolocators weigh like a fraction of a gram or so, and they still require to capture them, but they provide more data. So that was kind of getting better. But then radar in conjunction now with citizen science projects like our eBird is much better. So citizen science projects, the reason we say that is because we're all involved and we're adding to the data. And so now this is the best way to track it. So again, going back to Cornell Lab of Ornithology, who uses eBird? Okay, it's a great tool. Merlin? Oh, wow, a lot more Merlin users. Okay. Well, they kind of work really well in conjunction. But so if you go to the website, and I would suggest doing this more on your laptop as opposed to your phone, because you get more data and information and things like that. But basically, Birdcast is great because it'll predict and it'll monitor the bird migration. And so scientists will learn like the patterns as far as like where the birds are breeding, the numbers, are they going up or down? Are they increasing? Are they declining? Things like that. And then they have forecast maps. So they'll predict, how many birds are coming through, when they're going to come through and where they're going to come through. And you could actually sign up for alerts. And they'll give you, like in real time, they'll show you these alerts as to when they're coming. So like if you subscribe, it's all free, this is all free, but if you go to that website and you say like, you want this alert, only in the spring, it'll tell you when the migration, what birds are coming through and when to expect them. So it'll say like, here, I'll show you the next pattern. Yeah, so basically it'll show you the data in your area, but the next screen will have migration tracking. So what they do is they basically track that migration. So in May of 2024, this was May of 2020, you could see like the arrows are showing like where the birds are migrating. This time they're going north to their breeding grounds. So, you know, and this high, medium, low. So like the activity as the birds come through, you'll see where they're gonna be. And it'll also tell you more in detail, but say April 30th, 2024, 333 million birds were predicted to come through, and you can see Texas was like heavy. It's awesome, really. But during that time too, it's good to be able to, it's kind of like a little reminder to dim your lights. Like if you have lights going up in the sky, it's a good time to dim them. So, you know, you kind of know that the birds are coming through. So interestingly enough, I just did this one because we just got back May 26th. You can see it's kind of the tail end. They're already up in Canada now. So, and this is the precipitation, the gray is the precipitation, because we had, on Monday, we had rain. So it'll show you that, but you can see like it's kind of winding down, you know, there's less migration happening now. So, let's see. I guess it was, oh, so here's the maps that what you'll get. Like, so for instance, Monday, May 6th of last year, right? 3 million birds, over 3 million birds were coming through our area. This year, on that Monday that I did it, 223,700 were coming over the area. So it's kind of interesting because it'll show you like, here's what's happened last night, and this is so far this season. So if you want to track to see how many birds crossed, they even have like the flight direction and speed and the altitude. I mean, some of them fly so high up, they fly like 10,000 feet above the ground. But the nice thing about this too is like over on the side here, this kind of scrolls down, but it'll say expected nocturnal migrants. And this year, over here, last year, we did a bird walk on the night before this. I didn't check it. Sometimes I check, but I didn't check it. We did the bird walk. We saw 76 species of birds that day. 76, and there was only 3 of us. So that day just happened, there was 3 of us. 76 species, and then later I went and I looked at this and I was like, oh my gosh, these are the birds we saw. We did see all these birds come through, like everyone that they said was coming were the ones that we saw.
Wow.
And I didn't look at it ahead of time, I just looked at it later. So I
Was that at the Spring Creek Nature Trail?
yes, this is all at the Spring Creek
Wow.
Nature Trail. Yeah, I know, it's an amazing place, it really
Do you
is.
see anything in a night nocturnal, a night hunt?
Sorry.
How do you see the birds in a?
No, what this is saying is that overnight, a lot of birds fly overnight. Matter of fact,
But you said you did a night walk.
no, we did a day walk,
Okay.
but you know what? Let me just show you, let's see, did I do this one? The modes of migration, I just wanted to show you. Oh, I passed this one, didn't I? The one where I got the moon and the birds.
No, it was.
Yeah, so different modes of migration. So different birds will migrate. So for instance, like the soarers, the hawks, the eagles, the vultures, things like that, they tend to migrate during the day and they use thermals. This way they can kind of save energy, less wing beats. So they also, a lot of what they call diurnal, the ones in the daytime, they will rely on like visual cues, such as different landmarks. So if they see, you know, mountains or rivers, they use that for navigation. Then there's the nocturnal migrators, and songbirds tend to fly at night because there's less predators at night. So a lot of times it's just easier for them. It's cooler sometimes. And they'll use like the sun, the moon, not the sun, the stars, the moon and things like that, and Earth's magnetic field to kind of guide them. And this way too, like I said, it's cooler, there's less turbulent air currents, because they're small birds and they're gonna get like pushed around. And a lot of birds will wait too, and they'll see like, like usually if there's a cold front or a warm front or whatever, if it's windy, they'll wait because they don't want to fly in the wind, it's hard. Or if the wind's behind them and it's going in the direction they want to go, they'll go, you know. So there's times where, birders kind of look for those fronts and say, oh, there's a front coming through. That means the birds are going to be pushing through. Now these crepuscular migrants, they're pretty much active during dawn and dusk, and they take advantage of those low light conditions, so that minimizes the predators, but it also gives them the benefit of being able to see somewhat. And so they can also use those visual cues for migration too. I guess I forgot to go back to that one because I was telling you about the migrating. Let's see. So we got the visitors, and I don't want to press this too many times because I know what'll happen. It's going to go, whoops, it's going to go flying. Oh, now what did I do? Okay. Yeah, we're at the Cornell lab. And then we'll finish up kind of soon. But basically, so what birds cope with and changes in their ecosystem, there's always competition. They have to compete for food, nest sites, materials, nesting materials, mates, territories. They always have to worry about being predated, so a lot of birds will use different alarm calls to tell each other, or they use mobbing where, they mob the little bird mobs the bigger ones. The injury display, to get you away from the nest, flock safety numbers, cavity nesting, because they could like sneak into that little small hole there. They have to worry about diseases, parasites, things like that, lice, fleas, pathogens. I don't know if you remember back in a couple of years ago, there was a outbreak of salmonellosis, and like people who had feeders, you could see like there were finches. It was mainly affecting finches. Pine siskins were coming through and finches, and they were dying, and they basically shared a disease, because they were all eating from the same place and they were spreading it to each other. Also like in the nest, sometimes there's, it's terrible, but like different bugs will go in the nest and then kind of inject themselves in the babies, and then the worms will like eat their way out through the eyes or whatever of the babies. So they'll kill the babies in the nest. It's pretty awful. Oh, I don't want to leave you with a bad taste in your mouth. Anyway, so habitat alteration, of course, urbanization causes fragmented habitat. Birds need, especially, different types of birds need a lot of space. You can't just have like one little space here, one little space there. I mean, it's almost like they need it for not like inbreeding. They don't want to just have like this pile of, group of birds. They want to be able to find birds all over and be able to mate with birds in different, areas. Food availability. So like when they're migrating, they have to think about food and find it. Seasonal changes in the diet. Again, like the seeds, the insects are disappearing because the season changes. A lot of them hoard. So a lot of birds hoard, and then other birds don't get the food. They have that territorial scavenging. So interesting thing I have to tell you about the scavenging, because for instance, bald eagles, they normally want a fresh fish, and so they will try to catch a fish. But, if it's kind of slim pickings and maybe, there's a fresh deer carcass or something, they might think, oh, what the heck, I'll eat this fresh deer carcass. Well, if it turns out that the hunter used buckshot that had lead in it, the lead will get into the tissues, and then the bird will eat those tissues, and then the bird will actually get lead poisoning. And lead poisoning is like a really terrible way for the birds to die. It's very, very sad. So if you hunt, or if you know any hunters that use lead buckshot, please ask them to use
illegal.
non-lead.
Lead buckshot's illegal.
It is illegal. It's illegal, but this is Texas and people do what they want to do. I've learned that they don't always follow the laws because they want to use something else, they go and do it. Maybe they don't have that conscience, they don't care about the birds, but that's where we come in, to educate people. And some people might just not know and they think, oh, that's what I had on hand. Well, you know what? Let's educate them. So we do know now, and we know that that happens and we could help, that's how we can help the birds. So even though birds have the ability to regulate their body temperature, when temperature changes happen, especially like, remember Uri? Everybody remembers Uri, that storm. I mean, a lot of fish perished because, everything froze over. And then, of course, a lot of birds don't have the fish and the other things, and everything freezes. So they didn't have the food. So a lot of birds perished too. So that is all the things that they have to worry about. Not that they just worry, but, so when they're building nests, I don't know if everybody can read this one, but, when birds are building nests, they don't always have the instructions, but even when they have the instructions, I thought that was pretty cute. You guys could all read that one, yeah? Anyway, I know. So, let's see, we go to what, 10:30? We do?
10:45.
Okay, I guess because we had a little late start, so. This is old, but 2.9 billion birds are gone in 50 years. So since 1970, we've lost like tons of birds, and whoops, and what have we lost them to? Basically increased population, humans, cats, destruction of habitat, invasive plants, bird trafficking, egg collecting, pollution, fertilizers that impact all the native plants, pesticides, herbicides, collisions, light pollution, climate change, and global warming. So, a lot of the birds, grassland birds are affected the most. There's 2 million acres of grassland that's being lost every year to development, cropland, and water, things like that. Things like our prairie chickens, and these are, what do you call it? I'm looking at the wrong thing here. The eastern meadowlarks. I mean, those are grassland birds, and that's what we're losing the most. And then as they're declining down, the boreal forest birds, unfortunately, 9 and 10, the migratory birds, like those orioles that come to the feeders, 2 and 5, we've lost 2.5 billion. The eastern forest bird, like those thrushes. I used to have a wood thrush that used to come every year in my back. I think there's woods behind me. And I used to hear the wood thrush, and I don't know if anybody's heard the wood thrush. They sound like a flute, really pretty song. And I used to love to hear it. And I don't hear it anymore, but that's because there's a development being built back there. So like the bird just doesn't come anymore. And we did have great horned owls, but I haven't heard those lately either. So it's kind of a shame. And then within certain bird families, we're losing a lot of birds. I'm kind of flipping through this quick, only because I want to get to like, why? Well, a lot of things we talked about, light pollution. It really attracts the birds, but then it disorients the migrating birds. It confuses them. They get exhausted, and then it makes them vulnerable, and then they collided in buildings. They collide. A friend of mine is an architect, and I said to him, he's in Virginia, and I said to him, why can't they just build, like with glass instead of being so reflective? They could put something to make it, because there are materials that they could use that make it less reflective. Nobody wants to spend the money, because it's cheaper to do it another way. So, and then, about, oh my gosh, they said up to 988 million birds die each year with collisions with the buildings, including even species that are, high conservation concern. I know during a storm in May of 2017, there were 400 migratory birds that were killed in Galveston because they crashed into a skyscraper. It was sad. So, you've got, your buildings, your communication towers, wind turbines. They're great, but, when those blades are spinning, the birds can't see them. I mean, you can't, when they're spinning fast, you can't see them and they go through. you know, so they have a lot of power lines and then residences. And the way that we could help them, and I'll talk about that in a second. First, we'll go over the doom and gloom, and then we'll go over the things that we could do to help them. So single-use plastics. Basically, you know, in the sixties, I guess maybe 5% of birds were found with plastic in their stomachs. But in the eighties, then there was like 80%, and now they're saying that, it says here projected by like 1950, there's gonna be 99%, but I just read something the other day that was like, pretty much like plastics, those microplastics, they're in everything. We have them in us, like, they're just everywhere. We just can't get away from them. So, surface feeding seabirds, they mistake the debris as prey. That affects the juveniles, because what happens is the juveniles are too young to, you know, go hunt for themselves. So the adult birds bring the food back to the nest, and they, mistakenly, you know, see plastic. They don't see plastic. They think it's some kind of food, and they bring it back, but it's plastic. So the chicks ingest the plastic. And now they're less likely to survive till adulthood because they're not getting any nutrition because they're eating plastic. So, and you know, it reduces the volume of their stomach and it leads to starvation. And then some eggs, like albatross, they will eat fish eggs. And sometimes they lay, they eat fish eggs, but they're laid on maybe floating debris, and then they'll eat the debris too, and it happens to be plastic. And so now they're eating plastic too. So, and then diving seabirds like puffins and things, they found plastic in their stomachs. And the ones that are, have found it, are usually smaller. They have shorter wings, shorter bills. And of course, they can't compete. You know, it's like survival of the fittest. So if you don't have the advantage of having, you know, good nutrition. So pesticides and they're called neonicotinoids, or neonics for short. And basically those are things like Roundup, glyphosate and things. So if you're having things sprayed on the, you know, plants and things like that, it's going to poison the birds, because the birds will basically eat, when the granules or the coated berries and the seeds, they're ingested by the birds, it's gonna kill them. But also it's going to kill the insects and the other invertebrates crucial to the birds and their young, because what happens with neonics, they actually go into the plant. And so, because they're going into the plant, they try to make the plant like injured, like insects don't like it. So for a gardener, they might say, oh, that's good, you know, it's gonna keep all the insects off. But the trouble is, then there's no food for the birds because the insects don't eat the plant. But then it's kind of like just dead. It's like dead food, really. It's like nothing. There's no nutrition, because, and a lot of times it'll just kill every insect, and now the bird has no food. Or what happens too is some of the dust gets into the wetlands, and then it goes into the food supply, and the fish get it, and then the birds eat the fish, and now they have it, you know, they have the poison. So it's just not good, because it accumulates in the fish, and then they pass it into the raptors when the raptors eat. So really, these plants are necessary for the birds to survive. And, you know, if we're spraying them all the time, it's not good. So what's gonna happen here? Let's see, go to my next thing. I guess what we could say now is, we did that. Our role in preserving natural balance. So we could do bird-friendly gardening. In fall, we could leave all the stalks and flowers and things that died back, because that will provide seed and cover. The leaf litter harbors the invertebrates and the eggs and dormant insects that will provide the food for the overwintering birds. It conserves moisture. And then the dead snags, they provide perches, which, you know, the birds or the hawks will use to get a clear view of whether it's prey, or are the birds predators or food or something like that. And the perches will harbor wood boring insects, which again, are sought by the woodpeckers. The woodpeckers need those, right? And so as long as those trees are not, you know, a hazard, it's good to leave them. I actually have a small sweet gum tree that was big and then it's slowly coming down. Like, it's funny because it just slowly is just decomposing. And as it's coming down, because the woodpeckers are pecking at it and the bark's coming off, and so it's a dead tree, but it's being used. And, you know, again, the birds are using it, they're finding insects, and little by little, it's coming down. Eventually, it's gonna just go back into the soil. I'm gonna let it do that, you know, because, the thing is, once it goes back into the soil too, it's excellent because it's going to start that decomposition, which again, you know, gets all those invertebrates back into the soil. So we could plant native plants, shrubs and berry bushes. We could remove invasive or non-native plants or exotic plants, because the exotic plants a lot of times will crowd out the natives. When I first came to Texas, I remember like the house that we bought had a lot of pretty plants. They were kind of exotic, kind of nice, but there wasn't a lot of real food or activity going on. So I did replace a lot of them with natives, and what a difference it makes. And yeah, you know, I get caterpillars, I get bugs, but I also get the birds, you know, and it's a whole ecosystem. I mean, we have, you know, the birds eating, we have the birds eating the bugs. And the lizards, you know, are there, and the lizards are out, and so it'll just kind of connects. And so how do we help the birds? Oh gosh, okay. I'm sorry, I was just looking at the time. So how do we help them? Basically, let's do this. Make our windows safe. The one way we can do that is like, I use sun catchers, like I use these little like sun catcher things. I have like a, what do you call it? Like a, not a greenhouse, yeah, like a sunroom. Thank you. I got a sunroom. And so in there, I have like these crystals. I put like these crystals hanging really pretty. I mean, it doesn't have to look all tacky and everything. It looks nice. I don't want to put curtains up because I could see all my birds in my backyard. And so I have these little crystals and it shines through. And then I've got little sun catchers, and I've got a little batik from when I went to Africa. And so I put up these little things just so that the birds can see the windows and not crash into them. And it's helped a lot. I mean, I hardly get any, knock on wood, I hardly get any collisions or bird crash strikes or anything. So that's really good. Keep cats indoors. Don't get me wrong, we love our cats, and I love my little stray cat that lives next door. We kind of share the cat, and it's an outdoor cat, but you know, we both take care of it. I had it neutered and I love him. But what I do is I keep a little spray bottle of water next to near my feeders and things, so that like if I'm on the back patio and I see him and he gets into his crouching position and he's trying to like stalk these birds, you know, I could tell him all I want to stay away from the birds. But so what I do is I take the water bottles, just water, and I spray him, because what I need to do is just distract his focus, because he's like focused and he wants to get them. And if I just spray it, he'll go look at something else. And so it's hard to keep them indoors. I know that, but birds unfortunately kill 2.4 billion cats kill 2.4 billion birds a year. It's bad. I mean, I never knew that, but so less lawn, plant natives. We talked about that. Avoid pesticides. We talked about that. Drink shade grown coffee, because that provides a forest canopy for the canopy birds. Because once they get rid of that, they lose their habitat. So that helps them. Use less plastic. World Migratory Bird Day, they say dim the lights for birds at night. Basically, you know, when they're migrating through, if we could dim our lights and kind of keep them so that they're not disoriented. If you do have feeders, keep them clean. Clean the feeders so that they don't, you know, pass the viruses on to each other. Change the water in the bird baths often, and provide food when scarce. I had this this was again in the crows. So the crows come to my feeders, and you guys, I know Diana knows. Diana knows that I do this crow call. And I call my crows, and the crows know my call. So when I call them, they come because they know, and they might not even be in the area. But when I do this crow call, they come because they know they're going to get food. So I provide food for them, and nobody wants to hear my calls.
I do.
All right, so, okay. Not so big, but they know it. They know it and they come. And it's funny because they just know, they're like, crazy bird lady, put your food out. Sorry. So I know, right? And so they come and they might not even be around and I put the food out. I give them like, like the chicken skin and stuff like that. They love it. Fish skin, whatever. So they come. And but the funny thing is the next door neighbor has muscovy ducks and the muscovy ducks, they have like one wing flip so they can't fly or whatever. They've learned that when they hear me call the crows, they come. So they come waddling over. They waddle over and they like beat them too. And I'm like, crows, hurry up because the muscovy ducks are coming. So they learn. Anyway, so that's, one way to help them.
The interesting thing is it's very possible those same crows know you so well that they actually watch you, and when you're outside, you probably can get to a point you don't even need to call.
You're right.
Dish and they're like, oh, she is.
You're absolutely right. They do that. Like I'll be out there and then I hear them. And I'm like, you wait a minute, I'm doing something, I'm busy. But you're right. It's like they know.
They recognize.
They recognize me and they know faces. They're very smart. So I'm gonna just quickly go over, it's not all doom and gloom. Normally we would take a break, but we're gonna end kind of soon. So, let's see. Yeah, okay. So we won't take a break because, we're coming to the end. But it's not all doom and gloom. They're recovering birds. There's some, with focused conservation programs in place, we could protect them. I don't know if anybody's heard of like Ducks Unlimited, but basically Ducks Unlimited is, like hunters want to hunt ducks, right? And they want to hunt and kill the ducks. So fortunately, they have, conservation efforts where they collect and put money into preserving the habitat for the ducks, because if they kill them all, there's not gonna be anything to hunt. So they do put a lot of money into preserving the habitat, which is a good thing. I mean, they're still killing the ducks, but at least they are replenishing the habitat for the ducks, so because of certain efforts, so for instance, the wood ducks, 35 million waterfowl was gained. I know hawks and falcons benefited from this conservation policy. The Endangered Species Act, and hopefully that stays in place. Because, there's different things going on that are rolling back some of the protections for birds and things. And, way back when they, banned DDT, that helped because that's when the eggshells were too thin and the eggshells were breaking basically under the bird's weight, So, again, we got some conservation efforts. I'm gonna just show you this slide because it can start in your own backyard. So, I know Linda's gonna do her bluebird presentation and I'm not gonna steal her thunder, but I wanted to show you this because, it's a good way for like even kids to learn about birds and things. Cornell Lab has something called Nest Watch, and you actually put in data to help with like when did the birds start, things like that. So these are my bluebird boxes. I have these bluebird boxes in my backyard, and basically, the eggs. I have this little slot. There's like an air slot. So I take my iPhone and I kind of slide it in there to take the picture. So I'm not, bothering them or anything. I slide it in and take the picture. When they're this young, I mean, their eyes aren't open, so they're just aware of a presence. So like when they hear or feel that presence, they think it's their mom bringing them food. And so they open up their mouths, and that's why you can get them looking like that. Once they get past that point and they see and everything, then they like hunker down and then they get all like down like that. But the nice thing about this is, you could kind of like involve the kids and stuff like that. I mean, I've watched the birds build the nest. They use pine needles. They're very particular. I tried to help them and I sometimes like put feathers in there. I put like little cotton in there in the nest, like before they start, I put it in the box, right? They throw it out. They're like, I don't want that. And so they just throw it out. I find it on the ground. I'm like, okay, whatever. They build their nest with the pine needles and stuff. And Then I've got chickadee boxes. I'll show you these guys, little chickadee boxes. So there's the chickadees. Chickadees are cute too. I mean, look, eyes closed. Well, see, looking for food, eyes closed. Then they're getting a little bigger, and then boy, they're getting big, and they can barely fit into that box, you know? You clean out the boxes in between broods, because you got to keep them clean because the parasites and things. When the birds aren't using the boxes in the winter, so I put that little cotton in there because I thought, well, you know, maybe the birds will want to nest and like overnight they're cold, you know. So I put the cotton in there so that they could cuddle, right? So what do I get? I open up a box because I check it even through the winter, even though it's empty, no bluebirds. I check it just to make sure there's no wasp nests and stuff. So I look in there one day and I look in and I'm like, there's a mouse. There's a mouse sleeping in my pot. So, and I didn't have my contacts in, I didn't have my glasses on, I couldn't see, I just saw this mouse, you know? And I said to my husband, I was like, there's a mouse in my bluebird box. And he looks and he goes, that's not a mouse, that's a bat. And I was like, we have bats. So the little bats, I know. And then we had and then a bunch of them came. We had like a bachelor pad.
Oh.
And it was cute. I mean, it really was. So just to finish up, I just want to say that there's a lot of citizen science projects of the way that you can get involved. These are some of the websites. Cornell Lab is amazing. It's got all kinds of great information. Nest Watch is one of the programs, you know, where you can, like I said, monitor the nest. The Great Backyard Bird Count that happens every so often. Project Feeder Watch that happens over the winter. The Breeding Bird Survey, that's more like international. World Migratory Bird Day, Black Birders Week, Christmas bird counts. At the Spring Creek Nature Trail, the past couple of years, I've had about 33 people come to the Christmas bird count. In Virginia, we used to go out in the snow. And so we didn't get as many people because it was freezing, you know, but here we got great weather. So there's no reason to not come out for these Christmas bird counts. And other resources, here's some more, basically, you know, guides, like all kinds of books. I mean, I'm like old school. I have tons of books. Books are always going to be good. But then we have a lot of websites that give us information. Cornell Lab has a free eBird app that you could use. The Merlin app is very powerful, but I have this here because I just say, you know, it can make mistakes. So don't go by what Merlin says. Try to ID the bird. It gives you an idea of what it is, and then you can look for it.
Here's an example of that. When we go walking with my dog in the evening, we usually have our Merlin app open because it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And also it's testing our auditory skills as well.
Yes. It's,
Every night we were picking up a mallard duck.
yeah,
And I'm like, that can't be right.
Yeah,
We're kind of-
it's hearing
"Oh,
it."
pigeon." So maybe someone has a mallard duck.
maybe.
And then we finally realized at a certain point when my dog gets hot, her panting.
Yeah.
It's like a mallard.
Yeah, that's a dog. It's all a culprit. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and you just can't always count on it. But there is one other podcast that I want to tell you about. I'm almost done here. So this one's called the science, it's a podcast called thescienceofbirds.com. Ivan Phillipson. He does he's an ornithological science type person. He is good because he does a monthly podcast. It's very good. It's very informative. He also has a quirky sense of humor. But the reason I have the cedar waxwings is one of them that he did on cedar waxwings. He said they're like fun-loving, laid-back, hippie type birds. And I was like, really? I was like, I took these pictures in my backyard. They will look like they're having a real argument. And so he thought that he got a kick out of that. But the last but not least, for more information, if you want to come to the bird walks, go to via landconservancy.org, bird walks. The little form you fill out, no big deal, and Houston Audubon has information. This is all my info. If you want to ever contact me, again, I took all these pictures. This was at the Spring Creek Nature Center. Look at all these birds. This one I didn't take. I know that one was got paid for. But you know, do feel free to email people. They call me the bird lady. They're like, I saw this in my backyard, what is it, or whatever, and I don't mind answering questions, I love it, actually, so. And that's everything, and basically, this is a green wing teal. So if you notice that the coloring for Diana,
I
when
can
she
see
had,
the difference.
it's a
yeah.
little more stripy than Dottie, and, he's sleeping, but yeah. All right, well, thank you for coming. Yeah. So glad you can make it. Good luck with the rest of your.
Thank you, Judge.
And I just want to add, if you were thinking about doing the presentation and you're not sure, do it. It's fun. Public speaking is not hard. We all have common interests. You know what I mean? So we're all friends, we're common interests. It's like, nobody's judging, don't be afraid. It's not scary. You just come up and tell your passion, share your passion, and people are gonna love it and do it. Go out there and spread the word. That's what we're doing Texas Master Naturalist for, right? So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. As I said, we went from the wide world. Ornithology. Now we're gonna get some detail on what I think is a lot of people's favorite bird around this part of the world is the bluebird in the Texas Bluebird Society. We have Libby Crum, who I remember this presentation from last year because it was an incredible amount of information. All of it really useful if you want to promote bluebirds in Texas. So Linda, it's all yours.
Thank you. Can y'all hear me without a microphone? Yes? Okay. Because I don't do well talking loud. Okay, we're going to talk about bluebirds this morning. If I can figure out how to use the mouse. Here we go. I have to put this disclaimer in. The PowerPoint presentation does not necessarily reflect the views of Texas Bluebird Society, so I can say anything I want. Okay, they're going to richly repay you for the trouble you take in attracting them and looking out for their interest. This is the Bluebirds Monitor's Guide. This is a great book if you want to learn more about bluebirds. So how many bluebirds are there in Texas? No, I don't mean the number. How many different species of bluebirds do we have in Texas?
2. No, I have.
We have 3. We have all 3. We have all 3 bluebirds. We have the eastern bluebird, the mountain bluebird, and the western bluebird. This is the western, this is the mountain here. And you can see where they are in Texas. The eastern bluebird is the one we're going to have in this part of Texas. But over in West Texas, you can find the other 2 species. This is the mountain bluebird. It's all blue. It doesn't have any red on it very much. And it's found in West Texas. And the western bluebird. Right here. Well, if I'd learned how to use the mouse. It's in the thrush family. Bluebirds are in the thrush family. That includes the bluebirds, robins, thrushes, and solitaires. This is the female eastern bluebird. She is not as colorful as the male. She's a little bit less blue. And here is the male. You can see how colorful he is. And this these are the juveniles here. They have speckled breast and they're really cute. And once they molt, they'll get their adult plumage. The average life expectancy is 2 years. They can live maybe 6 or even more, but there are a lot of predators out there and things that go after birds, so they have a short lifespan. Your basic needs are going to be food, water, shelter, and they have to have a cavity for nesting. They're not like robins and build their nest in the tree branches. They have to have what some people call a bird house, but it's not a house. They don't live there. It's a nest box. So that's what they need. So if you want to really attract bluebirds to your yard, you'll need to put up a nest box. And there are a lot of other birds that nest in cavities too, like chickadees and things like that. Now, what do Texas bluebirds eat? Well, primarily insects, grasshoppers, beetles, spiders, caterpillars, and mealworms. And you shouldn't feed them too many mealworms. That should just be a snack. Because that's not they need other things to eat than that. It's actually a larval form of a beetle. And they'll feed their nestlings mealworms when they're a few days old. They cannot digest them when they're really, really young. And they feed other insects. They're going to poke that big, I think that's a grasshopper, down the throat of a baby bluebird. It's amazing. And here's the male. He's going to feed the babies. Looks like he's got a huge insect there. I don't know how that baby bird's going to eat it, but they do. And of course, after they eat, they poop a fecal sac, and the adult birds, take the fecal sac out of the nest and drop it somewhere away from the nest. They don't want to attract predators. I watched a bluebird removing fecal sacs from a nest, and she would fly up to a limb of a tree, and she was putting them on this limb. There was a whole line of little fecal sacs on the limb of that tree by the time she got finished. And when insects are not available, they will eat berries and suet. You put suet out. They'll eat pokeweed berries. Here's some young bluebirds. You can tell they are because of their speckled breast there. They haven't had their first molt yet. Eating pokeweed. American beautyberry, they will eat these. This makes good jelly too. I don't know if y'all know that, but it's edible by us too. Of course, you're taking food away from the birds. So you need to plant a lot of beautyberry in your yard.
The birds will plant it for you.
Yeah, they will.
I don't have any beautyberry that I put there. It's all growing along my fence line.
Oh, really? Parsley hawthorn is another berry they will eat. And strawberry bush.
So the baby birds don't eat like regular caterpillars, they just eat a mealworm?
No, they eat other insects too. They eat whatever mom and dad brings to them.
But they'll bring caterpillars like?
Oh, yes, yes. They bring caterpillars and other insects. Arrowwood viburnum is another berry they will eat. And flowering dogwood. So plant these plants in your yard, but not only for bluebirds, but for others. This is roughleaf dogwood here, the flower and the berries. And coral honeysuckle. We'll eat this. Okay, and plant plants that attract insects, because, that's primarily their diet, are insects. So, plants that attract insects, this is Barbara's buttons. And you always want to have water for birds. And they like a shallow, very shallow basin for their water, because they don't like deep water. None of the birds do. Are they country birds or are they city birds? Well, the preferred habitat is a relatively open area with low vegetation and trees nearby. And here we have a nest box in a pasture of cows. So she's riding on horseback here, checking her nest boxes. This baffle right here has a screen on the top. So when the snakes crawl up the pole, they can't get to the nest box. And you always want to have a baffle underneath your nest box, or you will have snakes taking your birds. This right here is a crossbar and it has barbed wire around it. And that's to keep the cows from rubbing up against the pole, because they will. Okay, they're good neighbors with other cavity nesters. We have tree swallows and bluebirds here nesting close to one another, but two bluebirds, they won't nest this close together, but they will tolerate another species birds to be this close. We don't have tree swallows that nest here. They migrate through, but they don't nest here. And this is perfect habitat here for a nest box. Out in the open, trees nearby. And this is another good habitat, and the residents don't bother the birds at all. So this would be a good place to put a nest box. Or in your backyard. How far apart do you want to put your nest boxes? Well, you don't want the bluebirds to see another nest box. So you can put one in the front yard, one in the backyard, you know, just so that they're out of sight from each other. And you want a Texas tough nest box because it gets hot in Texas. Y'all have noticed that, haven't you? You can use heat shields on the box. This is plexiglass. Actually, it's high density polyethylene. And they painted holes here that helps the birds see that that may be a cavity there. They'll eventually find a real cavity. And this is a nest box in my backyard, and it was receiving a lot of afternoon sun. So I put up an umbrella, and my husband said, Linda, the neighbors are going to be talking about us. I said, the neighbors are talking about us anyway. I'm just giving them something interesting to say. So I kept this umbrella up so that this nest box got afternoon shade, because it can overheat if it's in the full sun in the afternoon. So try to locate your nest box so that it gets shaded in the afternoon. Okay, this nest box has a data logger in it that shows how, you know, the temperature gives you the temperature here. Now, here are several nest boxes. I would need to put my glasses on. I can't read this. Okay, we've got a, weathered nest, Texas weathered nest box in the middle, and it's going to get the hottest. Because it, is dark and, has no heat shields or anything. And then we have, one with normal venting, which is about half inch. And that is the area, I don't have a pointer, do I? I don't have a pointer, do I?
Well,
No, okay. Yeah. Right here underneath the roof, there's this doesn't go all the way to the roof. There's a vent there. It's half an inch. Usually. If you want extra venting, which would be, I think 5/8 inch. Yeah, 5/8 of an inch. You're gonna drop the temperature even more. If you add heat shields and extra venting, drops the temperature again. And if you paint it white or an off-white, it's going to be the best. So just paint your nest box. A lot of people don't like to do that, but the birds like it more. You're trying to please the birds. Okay, where'd my mouse go? Did we see this already?
yeah.
All right. So here you can see the temperatures of the different nest boxes. Look at that. All right, I'm having trouble with this mouse.
If you want, I can turn on the microphone as well.
Did she use the arrow thing on the keyboard?
So now if you use your mouse, you can use it right here. It'll slide better. And I have a laser pointer on that for you. So that little red dot,
Okay.
they can see it on the screen up here too.
Oh.
And if you want me to turn that on.
Oh,
There we go.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Yeah, okay. Well, you can see the different temperatures and half-inch venting versus the 5/8 inch venting and how it drops, but the best is just to paint it white. If you want to paint it and have vents too, that's even better. So you just want to make sure you keep the temperature as low as you can in the nest box. If it really gets too hot here. Predators and competitors. Here we have a raccoon. And you can see that this nest box is put together with nails. You don't want to do that. You want to put your nest box together with screws. And unless the raccoon has a screwdriver, your birds are going to be a lot safer. So here you can see this little half-inch box here around the opening. That's no deterrent to a raccoon. So might as well leave that off. But here he is trying to get into the nest box to get to the bluebirds. Snakes are another predator. You can see this predator guard right here. The snake is supposed to crawl up the pole into this, but it's so low to the ground, he just goes over it. So when you install a predator guard, you want to install it right underneath the nest box so that the snake has to crawl up the pole and into here, and there's a screen at the top here that keeps him from going on up. And here's a Texas rat snake, and if you, you always want to tap on your box before you check it. And it should sound hollow, but if it sounds like it's full of something, it's got a snake in there probably, so you don't want to be too surprised when you open up the box, but this is what you're gonna find. He's just taking a little nap after having his snack. You can install, netting underneath the nest box so that the snake can't crawl up there. Tells you how to do it and supplies to use there. And of course, you don't want to be putting your nest box on a pole or a tree because predators like cats, and I like cats. I just keep them indoors so they can't get at my birds. But this cat right here is, this actually is a staged photo. Keith Kreidler took it and borrowed somebody's cat to put up there. Hawks, these are,
A fence does not work either. If trees and poles do not work, putting them against a wooden fence will not
No.
work either.
No, don't put them on a fence. You need to mount them on a metal pole and put a predator guard on there. This is not what you want to see on your bluebird nest box. It's a red-shouldered hawk, takes advantage of bluebird nest box, using it for a perch, you know, just waiting. And of course, other things you might find in your nest box. One is spiders, black widow spider. And this is her egg sac right here. So you definitely don't want that. Wasps.
Yes.
I've had wasp in a nest box before. I took it out. I put on gloves and I took it out. I didn't get stung. I don't know how I managed to avoid that, but you know, one thing you can do is to rub a bar of soap on the inside of the roof here. So the wasp nest will not adhere to that. And the birds are not going to be up here, so they're not going to get soap on them. But just take a bar of soap and rub it all over the inside of the top, and that way you'll keep the wasp out. Or at least keep them from nesting there.
Is there a type of soap that you use?
A type of soap, any kind of soap is okay. Okay, flying squirrels. This is another inhabitant that you might find in your nest box. And beware, they bite. So you need to evict them. Oh, and I checked the nest box one time. This one was at work, where I used to work for the township. It was community associations with the Woodlands at the time. But I was greeted with this surprise when I opened up the nest box. These little possums.
Tap first before you open it.
Yeah, I did.
That sounded solid, I'm sure.
It did, but I opened it anyway. And
Please be a
was-
possum. Please be a possum.
they were hissing at me. Yeah, they're so cute. this is this baffle right here not only deters climbing mammals, but snakes as well.
I have a question about the baffles.
Uh-huh.
I'm noticing they're all just the plain tin. Nobody is like if I put one in my yard, I might wanna paint it green. Or put like a little something on it just to make it cuter. Is there a reason people don't do that?
There's too much trouble.
Okay.
You can paint it if you want, but I wouldn't put anything on it. That just,
Well, I just mean like paint it to look like leaves. Or paint it to look like bark or something,
Okay.
you know, so it kind of like blends in with your yard. A
Yeah.
little more.
yeah, you can do that. Okay, let's go from courtship to family. This is a courtship wing wave here. Yeah, male and female on top of the nest box, waving at one another. He says, "Hey babe, I'm over here." This is a wing wave, courtship wave to the female, and she's so happy she's dancing. Get her. Now, the male will lead the female to several nesting sites, with the female making the final choice. Isn't that the way it is, guys? So the male's inside, the female's right here looking in. And she's gonna make the choice, yes or no. So she indicates her acceptance by flying into the cavity, often joining the male on the inside. So natural cavity selection, they cannot make their own cavity. They're called secondary cavity nesters because they can't, that little beak just can't make a cavity. So they rely on woodpecker holes, abandoned woodpecker holes, or you to put up a nest box. And here's a hole right here. The bird flying out. I forgot to tell y'all, this is an X-rated presentation. X-rated PowerPoint here. It's been asked, are the eggs fertilized before or after they're laid? Well, it's before they're laid, and it's right here. Now she's the one that builds the nest. He's got a little piece of wimpy straw right here. He's trying his best to help, but she was just up there going, "Would you just get out of the way?" So she's going to build the nest, and they often use grasses but in this area, they're going to use pine needles. So if you find a bluebird nest, it's almost always pine needles. And this is what they look like right here. So.
Is that something you need to clean out every year? I think like with start.
You clean it out after every nesting.
You do, okay.
Yeah, because they will just keep building on top. They don't want to use that old nest. So, here it is, the pine needles here. These are grasses. It's a mess.
So you say clean it out after every nesting. How many nestings might they have in a year?
They can have up to 4. Chickadees, 1, you know. Sometimes you'll find that a chickadee has built a nest, and they build their nest out of green moss. So if you find this green mossy nest, that's a chickadee. And you don't want to evict the chickadee and say, this is for the bluebirds. No. Chickadees only nest once a year, and they get beat up by everybody. So what I do is I have more than one nest box up, hoping that the chickadee will take one and the bluebird will take the other. But if a chickadee takes a nest box, I put a hole reducer on the hole. You can buy them at Wild Birds Unlimited. They're just little metal holes, 1 inch. And that's too small for the bluebird to get in. So you protect the chickadee while it nests and then take it off because she's not gonna nest again. And the bluebird can use it then. That's why I have more than 1 nest box up. The bluebird just has to take the other nest box. That's all there is to it.
Is there a recommended height that you install the box off the ground?
Yes, about 5 feet. You don't want to get it too high because you've got to monitor that box and you don't want to be getting up on a ladder. I won't say at our age, but that's true. We don't want to be getting up on a ladder to monitor a nest box, so. The bottom of the nest box is about my eye level, which is, I'm 5 feet tall. I used to be 5'2". What happened? Oh, well. Now she's gonna build a nest out of dried grass or pine needles, and she will lay 1 egg a day. And she does not start incubating until she has laid either her next to the last egg or her last egg. So she will start incubating the eggs at that point. 5% of bluebirds lay white eggs. My son took this picture right here. She just doesn't have the blue pigment in her body to lay blue eggs, but they're just as good as blue eggs. I mean, they're bluebirds. Normal clutch size, 3 to 5 eggs, can be 6, 7. She'll incubate, it says 12 to 14 days. Every nest that I have monitored, it's 14 days exactly. They hatch on that 14th day. Let's see. Oh, only the female incubates the eggs of the bluebirds. She develops a brood patch. It's an area on her breast where the feathers are lost so that she can transfer her body heat to the eggs. And the male stands guard and brings food to the female. He's being good. And all the eggs hatch within a 24-hour period in the order that they were laid. Now, I don't know how they know that for sure, because what'd they do? Go in and number the eggs or something? It's probably. Okay. She broods them for 5 days because they can't maintain their body temperature. So the female's going to keep them warm for at least 5 days. And they're fed about 5 times an hour. And you can see how they develop here. And here they've got feathers. They're well developed in about 12 days. And when they start peeking out of the nest box like this, they're going to fledge either that day or the next. Otherwise, they stay hunkered down pretty good until it's time for them to fledge. And then they start peeking out like, oh, we can go out there. And of course, the parents encourage them to come on out. Tired of feeding y'all here. So they're going to fledge in 16 to 20 days, and they do not return to the nest. So once they fledged, clean out the box, because bluebirds nest up to 4 times a year. And here they are in the treetops. Mom or dad's bringing them some food. They're still being taken care of by the parents after they fledge. And the parents teach them about watching out for cats and hawks and so forth. And they're dependent on these parents for about 3 to 4 weeks after they leave the nest.
Do the parents just kind of follow with them wherever they go, or do they like wait in the same tree?
Oh, they hang together.
Snout together?
Yeah, right. Mhm. And finally, they'll disperse after a while. But, for 3 to 4 weeks, the parents are gonna take care of it. And they're gonna have 2 to 4 nestings per year. You can see how speckled this one is. And when they start molting, they're not pretty at all. Kind of ugly. So here he is cleaning out the nest. That's Dan. Cleaning the nest out of the box after the birds have fledged.
How do you clean it out? I mean, other than pull out the.
Just pull it out. Yeah, and then brush it. I have a little brush I use to brush all the stuff out. It's not really necessary, but I'm that way. You want to monitor your nest boxes during the nesting season. And you want to do this in the afternoon if possible. Because if she's laying eggs in the morning. She usually gets her eggs laid by 10 o'clock in the morning, but I wait until the afternoon to monitor the nest box. Once a week or so. It won't disrupt the nesting process. And I don't like this kind of nest box. It's called a Peterson's nest box because you can see it slanted. So if you open it up, there's a chance the nest is gonna fall out. So I much prefer the ones that Texas Bluebird Society make. Okay, we've got 10 steps to success. Choose the correct nest box, located in the appropriate habitat. Provide predator guards. Eliminate pesticide use. Why would you eliminate pesticide use?
Get rid of the bugs.
Right, you kill the bugs and the birds got nothing to eat. So, and then wait. Monitor, record and report your data. Plant native plants and berries. Because that's what the insects like and the birds like the insects. And clean out the box after each nesting. And check the box at the beginning of each season to make sure it's nice and clean and ready for the birds. And there's 2 websites, silas.org and texasbluebirdsociety.org that you need to check. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Do you ever need to use bleach, like after the end of the season or something, or do you just grab it and that's it? Even after like, let's say August, when you're emptying your box for the following season?
No, I don't. I just brush it out. They don't need bleach.
Linda,
Yes.
do you clean it out at the end of the season? I mean, if they're having multiple.
I clean it out after each nesting.
So I,
That's-
you
Yes.
them flag.
Because they'll build a new nest on top of the old nest. She doesn't want to use that old nest. So then it gets up really high next to the hole in the box. And so after the birds fledge, they're not gonna come back to the nest box. So I just take it out and brush it out and she starts over.
I had a couple this year, but she didn't make a second clutch.
Oh,
Maybe one of them died or,
yeah,
you know.
or they found some other place.
So the second, now if you get a second nesting or even a third in your same box, it could be a different set. The original parents may or may not return to that box.
Well, it's probably the same bluebirds, I would say. It could be different ones,
Okay.
but, yeah.
And the beginning of the season around here is when? like March?
March,
March, okay.
right? It could be February. I mean, you want to be ready in February for the box. I leave my boxes up all year because, they use them in the wintertime. If it's really cold, they'll use it for, sleeping at night. Yes, ma'am.
I have two online questions. Mark says he's seen more eastern bluebirds in Kingwood this year and wanted to know if bluebird populations have been increasing. Or is it just happenstance?
It could be either one. Yeah,
Could be either one.
right. Bluebirds.
And somebody asked, they've heard nesting boxes should face east. But does the direction they face matter?
I face mine north. You know, I don't like to face them south because of the sun, you know, but I face them north. You can face them east.
And when summertime.
Facing them east is fine. I had a nest box one time and I had it face east. Because I read that was a good direction to face nest box, so. But I couldn't get the bluebirds to nest in it, so I went out there and turned it around north and they nested in it. Who knows? So if they're not nesting in it and you've got bluebirds around, you might try facing it a different direction.
What did you think of that? If it was facing one direction, if you're facing east, and then you're like, well, I'm not getting any bluebirds, what made you realize, well, let me just flip it around a little bit to,
I don't know.
why that?
I don't know. Just
Something to try.
something to try. Yeah.
And they're not bothered by, yard crews coming through and neighbors walking their dog through my backyard and stuff like that, or?
Neighbors walk their dogs through your backyard?
Yeah, well, we have a big connected open
Oh,
back.
no, they get used to stuff like that, but, if it bothers them, they're not gonna nest there.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Right. I have a lot of bluebirds, but they must, and nobody around me that I know of has boxes, but there's lots of trees and snags and things, so.
Mhm.
But I would love to encourage them, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I usually bring a nest box in case anybody wants to buy one, but I didn't bring one today. I only have one left at home. But contact Texas Bluebird Society if you want to buy a nest box from them.
Somebody asked, they have a small yard. Does that matter for a nest box, the size of your yard?
No, they don't know where the perimeter of the yard is.
It just has to be on a pole, not a tree or anything.
Right, you want it on a pole. And there's a thing you can mount on the bottom of the nest box to screw your pole in.
A flange.
Flange, yes. Which is better than adhering it to the back of the box. Any other questions? Yes.
I live in Huntsville, and there was a man up there, I can't remember his name, but he dedicated his life to building bluebird boxes and have other people do the same. Do you remember who that is? Or never heard of him? Okay,
No, I don't.
but it made a big difference in population in Huntsville.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good. Is he still there?
No, he's.
Oh. Well, he did good while he was here. So. Any other question? Well, thanks for, oh, yes.
I'm sorry, does the Bluebird Society work with cemeteries and places to put up bird boxes and public spaces or?
No. Mm-mm. They need to be monitored, is the thing. So if somebody puts one up and monitors it, it's one thing. Yes,
So why are you monitoring them once a week, like you said? What are you looking for if you have bluebirds that are in there and, maybe,
you're just checking to make sure everything's okay and, that, something hasn't gotten into the box and,
If you're seeing babies disappear consistently, you know you have a predator that's
Yeah.
getting through somehow, things like that.
so. They get used to you monitoring the box.
Do squirrels go after the boxes?
Yeah, you need to keep the squirrels.
Filling the eggs, that's, yeah, I have them in the tree. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're eggs.
You don't wanna, mount your nest box too close to a tree that can be jumped on.
No, I had a woodpecker nest in a tree, and then the bluebirds took over, and then the squirrels took over.
Oh,
And now they enlarged the hole and look up and there'll be a squirrel tail hanging out.
oh my
Looking out.
gosh,
Hanging out
Uh-huh.
with snacks.
squirrels, yes.
Flying squirrels around here.
Flying squirrels?
Yeah.
Have you seen flying squirrels?
I haven't been, Wood. Yeah, a few Woods has flying squirrels,
Who does?
Woods over on 1488 before that.
Oh, okay.
They're out at nighttime, probably why you don't see them a lot. They're here,
So that'd be a problem with residents.
probably not, they like it high up.
Because they, just
They prefer trees.
Yeah, they like the trees
Yeah.
and they like to be high up, so when they leave, they can drop that light out.
they didn't have fringes,
It did show it, yeah, but I guess we'll take up wherever, yeah,
I just wanted to know how.
Yeah. so.
Okay, well, thanks for having me.
Well, I heard a couple of folks say they're sad this is over.
Yeah.
Because it's sad to be tradition. So if you are sad that it's over, and would like to do it again, this is the advertisement to be on the training team for next year. So just let me know, let any of us know. Because we're always looking for people, because the more people we have, the more we can spread out.
When does the training team get started?
We'll start probably in July. We're gonna do a debriefing in June of this year, what we learned in the time before, and then in July, we'll start with just having a couple of, start doing some meetings and prepping and making sure we have all the materials and figuring out, starting in July, we have to start making reservations at these places. So we can,
Michael, could you put in a plug for the mentors as well?
yes, if, yeah, here's another one. If you don't wanna devote all, 20 Saturdays to this, you could also, volunteer to be a mentor, which is someone who just helps the interns get through all of the stuff that goes on. If any kind of question, there's somebody there that can help you answer that question, be somebody you can go to ask about that. Also about volunteer opportunities, because around January, you're gonna learn a lot about volunteer opportunities, because you're gonna be looking for it. But Diana's an example of one of the mentors, which I've had, who just makes sure it gets you through this process. And will bug you about making sure your hours are doing that. Can you tell I've been hammered on that, nobody will tell you. Next up, next Saturday, 2 p.m. You've got a project, I'll make a commitment, we'll be this place ready to accept projects about 1:30 if you wanna come in and set up. get all of that ready. We'll be here before 1:30, making sure everything's ready to go. The whole, right, yes, ma'am.
I'm confused. On our calendar, it has next Saturday booked from 8 to 5 for graduation.
It's,
So don't come at 8,
no, well, you can come at 8 if you want, but 2 PM is when we start.
start, okay, cause I was gonna be here at 8
No,
until 5.
no.
Aren't you glad?
This is why you always ask.
I've been telling people, no, I can't do anything that day.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's fine.
Uh,
From 2 to what time?
Probably 2 to 4 is my guess, maybe 4:30 with chatting off. So to help with that, you know, what's the, from 2 to 2:45 or so, I think is what we've scheduled. Let people come in, let all your guests that come walk around and see all the projects. The junior master naturalists will be here with their projects, so please go support them. Give them a lot of love that's here. Then we'll have just a couple of just mainly introductions and presentations. I've asked Lisa Houston, who's our chapter president, to say a few things. She said, well, then make me a slide, so I'm making a presentation for her, and I'm happy to do it. Then we'll do the master naturalist graduation, and then we'll do yours, so everybody gets recognized one at a time. So be prepared to come up, your name's called, you get your shirt, your lanyard, your name badge, a handshake, a picture. If you have got your 40 hours of volunteer work done, you'll also get your dragonfly pin at that time. So there's, if you've got 80 hours already done, you get your dragonfly pin and your rodeo pin. So we'll have all of that. Otherwise, once you get your 40 hours at the next chapter meeting, you'll get your butterfly pin. So, yes, ma'am.
Another question,
Yes.
sorry. I have a son who is freshly 14, so he just mixed the cutoff to do junior
Mhm.
master naturalist this year. But does that mean, do you have to be 18 to do this
I
one?
think,
Can I drag him with me next year if I want to help?
I think there is a age limit. I don't know.
It's 18 here.
I think it's 18.
18, so there's just a void gap for the teenagers, dang it.
Because the junior master naturalist program is really a initiative within chapters. It's not part of the statewide TMN
Gotcha.
thing. Chapters can opt to do that. What that would say though is an opportunity may exist.
I was about to ask.
He built a interim program in there for 14 to 18-year-olds, for high school kids to get that. We've recruited a lot of the high school kids that want to get involved in this, into the water specialist program. They can come high school age and above, so it's a good way to start. I'm putting a plug in because I'm running the water specialist program next year, so yes, we can do that, and that's also a Saturday. That's just 3. So,
And somebody had asked for presentations. About having a PowerPoint or some kind of presentation on a computer or online.
Yeah.
Generally, how the presentations work, we'll have tables around the edge. And you stand with your presentation and people come to your table and maybe ask questions, something like that, and go around. So it's not like you'll be giving a presentation in front of everybody. You'll just be standing and talking about what you have. So if you have a PowerPoint or something like that, you might be ready for, make it brief and be ready for people to come and you can show them what you have. That's how it works.
and typically you'll see a lot of trifold back to your, elementary school days. Then you'll have a trifold they'll be up around the edges here. Some people will do handouts. I think I know, we actually have people that are going to be giving out some native milkweed piece, cuttings that you can start, yes.
Three plants to 6 people. So I have a lot more, but I was gonna give 3 to 6, and my daughter says they should only be given in groups of 3 because otherwise they'll get gobbled up by the
Yeah.
monarchs, so. I have a lot more, but there, I just thought I'd just bring these 18 plants this time.
So, come early.
Yeah. I want to get in line to take care of these plants for this next year before you put them in the ground. They really need to be real done before you put it in.
Yes, ma'am.
Or for example, butterflies and caterpillars, and that also be part of it as a, or as the pollinator garden.
You, as part of the presentation,
Yeah.
to show, sure.
Perfect.
Shall we talk?
Yeah, it's a good show and tell.
We had somebody last year, you brought
Most of my display.
was it a lizard?
Yeah, it's very something.
Yeah.
We had a bat presentation last year, but no live bats.
First time for.
And then when the ceremony's over, there'll be cake.
Oh, good.
So, which is why we asked for the RSVP, just so we get the room set up and it's not overcrowded. And we kind of know what to expect. And if you're not gonna be there, we'll make sure that we hold your stuff. Your name's still gonna be up there. So, any other?
Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thanks. Well, on behalf of the training team, thank you. This is a great group. I have enjoyed it. I think, the rest of the team have also.